everyone that some of our meeting presenters may participate via Zoom. Ms. Ozinski, may we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Vasquette. President Feaster.
Here.
Trustee Muhammad.
Here.
Trustee Schmidt.
Present.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Present.
Trustee Wilkins.
Here.
Trustee Wilkes. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Ozinski. I would now like to introduce the non-voting member at the table, Jazz Parks, Superintendent of Schools.
Good evening. Thank you, President Feaster.
Trustees, you have received the agenda. Are there any changes or additions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Schmidt,
Second.
supported by Trustee Wilkerson. Any discussion? None? Ms. Ozinski, please.
President Feaster.
Yes.
Trustee Muhammad.
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt.
Yes.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Yes.
Trustee Wilkins.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Ozinski. I believe that brings us down to public commentary. The board would like to remind everyone that individuals who have signed up for public commentary will have their name called and will be given an opportunity to speak. Commenters will receive up to 4 minutes, and the public commentary period will be limited to 45 minutes. When your name is called, please come forward and speak at the microphone. To help manage your time, a clock will be placed on the screen in front of you. We would like to remind everyone that public comments generally pertain to the Ann Arbor Public School District matters. Comments about any individual or individuals are expressly prohibited. Also, please understand that board members do not respond to public comments, but we will listen carefully and will follow up as appropriate. Ms. Ozinski, how many times do we have for tonight's meeting?
We have 7 signed up this evening. And first is Kevin Bonsack.
Trustees of the Board of Education, honored to be here this evening. My name is Kevin Bonsack. I'm the president of the Huron-Ann Arbor Athletic Club. I represent our parents, our student athletes, and the coaches of the clubs and teams that we all have as constituents. And of course, you, as voting members of the Board of Education, you have your own constituents. I'd like to outline my speech today under the mantra that AAPS really holds true: to lead, care, and inspire. We're all leaders in this room. In fact, I'd say everybody here is a leader because we care and we're passionate about what we want to see for our students and, for me, the student athletes. But for full transparency, we're frustrated. We have not had updates for years to our facility, and there's been significant neglect. For care, we all care, but we have an issue with consistency. There are glaring disparities when you compare our facility across the district, and we do not have facilities that are commensurate with other schools. And finally, we want to inspire. And what does that mean? We want to be proud of our space, where we can learn, play, and win. But unfortunately, we have visiting teams. They disparage what we have at our own facility. In fact, sometimes they even avoid using our locker rooms. Everyone, we have a problem and we need to fix it. Fortunately, what I understand after doing a little homework, right? We're in an education and academic environment. And here's what I would say. I think we have shared values. When I've looked at what our board represents here, you represent us as constituents, we have shared values and principles. We want to have great things happen. We want trustees that are tirelessly advocates so that all voices are heard for stakeholder engagement and identifying the needs where what resources are given to us are done with us as opposed to something done to us. We want to have high quality resources by the end for what our facilities should have for our student athletes, where our students feel valued and supported. So how do we do this? Well, from what I can tell, we need barrier busters. And what are those barriers? If it's money, if it's resources, all we need is that transparency, accountability, and consistency. Tell us, we don't have the money, we don't have the resources, we don't have the plan. If that's the case, in 2 weeks we need to hear, or we will go on as fundraising, which we know how to do as parents, companies in the community, or other donors to work towards the goals that we know we need to have. So if it's not through the operational funds or the bond committee, simply tell us, you don't have the money. And we can then move on so we can continue to improve the facilities and the environment where we want to be proud River Rats. Finally, I love the principle of civility, another prominent principle that was called out by members of the Board of Education. And I think we can be very civil in this to have an open, transparent, accountable, and consistent resource for our student athletes at Huron High School. Together we can work towards a better tomorrow. You have an email that I sent last night. One of you are welcome to respond. My cell phone is there as well as email. So please, let's engage and try to figure this out together. Thank you.
Thank you. Max Samaha.
Good evening. My name is Max Samaha, and I'm a graduate of Ann Arbor, Huron. And I recently began at the University of Michigan as a 17-year-old with sophomore standing, majoring in neuroscience. I graduated from AAPS in 3 years while serving as co-president of Student Council in leadership in many other organizations. I'm speaking tonight because students from Ann Arbor, Huron are reaching out urgently about changes they are experiencing right now. Office hours are disappearing, their clubs are going away, and tutoring opportunities are being reduced. They aren't minor inconveniences for many students. They're the difference between falling behind and failing in success. Office hours, tutoring, and extracurricular involvement were critical to my success in Ann Arbor Public Schools. They were learning opportunities. They were opportunities for me to grow and chances to connect with faculty and staff. Those supports made it possible for me to manage an accelerated course load and take on leaderships and still have the opportunity to thrive. Students today are losing access to that same support. They feel distance, they feel silence when doors are closed and emails go unanswered, and they're internalizing the message that relationships are optional. The reality is that Ann Arbor teachers are held to a higher expectation than many others across the state. Their expectations to mentor, advise, run clubs, support the students' mental health, and go far beyond those expectations held in the classroom. That level of responsibility deserves compensation that reflects those expectations. At the same time, from a student's perspective, it's critical that teachers continue to stand up and support their students during this time period, even in moments of frustration or uncertainty. When support is pulled back, students feel it immediate and deeply. Ann Arbor Public students, AAPS students, are high achievers, but high achievers doesn't always happen in isolation. It happens when teachers are supported and valued. And when teachers continue to show up for their students, if we want students to continue to succeed at the highest levels, we must protect both our educators and the relationships that make these learning opportunities possible. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Baturo Bartolome.
Hello, school board. I'm so grateful to be presenting here this evening. My name is Baturo Bartolome, and I go to Pioneer High School. When I first walked the halls of Pioneer, I had no direction, no motivation to raise my aspiration level, and I didn't pay attention to class, and I didn't look towards my future. It wasn't until I met my Algebra 2AC teacher, Mr. Coleman, when I started to realize the importance and the weight my education had on my future. Furthermore, as a black man, being in the AP classroom was unwelcoming and scary. Without this mentor, I wouldn't have been able to become the true scholar I am today. This connection I built with Mr. Coleman strengthened my understanding of my academic potential and where I belong. When the contracts of teachers who can have the same life-changing impact Mr. Coleman had on me are cut, we risk failing the core purpose of education. To quote your mission statement, you exist to contribute to quality schools and advocate for macro issues on behalf of member PTOs. Yet, cutting union contracts from the teachers who make our schools run directly undermines school quality and silences a major stakeholder group. You cannot claim to promote collaboration, best practices, and community involvement while excluding and destabilizing the very educators who are essential to our students' success. Thank you.
Thank you. Lily Bennis.
Hello, my name is Lily Bennis, and I'm a junior at Huron High School. When my family moved to Ann Arbor, a large part of that decision was based on the access that I would have to Ann Arbor Public Schools. AAPS is obviously an outstanding district, and I think that it can be agreed upon that this is mainly due to our teachers. My experience with these teachers, especially in high school, has been overwhelmingly positive. It's very motivating as a student to be taught by individuals who are not only so clearly passionate about what they teach, but also eager to share these topics with students like myself. I can confidently say that I have never had a teacher who was unwilling to give me extra support outside of class. I've even had teachers who have gone as far to support me in sponsoring a club. I run multiple clubs at Huron, and currently, due to teachers not working outside of contract hours, these clubs are not meeting. This is the case for every club at Huron that does not have a paid advisor. This means that due to the slim number of teachers being compensated for the time that they put into after-school activities, the high majority of Huron's clubs are currently not meeting and will not be until a new contract is written and agreed upon. I've had to tell many members who look forward to weekly meetings this information multiple times, and every time it pains me to see how sad they become at the news. This past month has really gone to show me how vital clubs at Huron are to the student experience as a whole. While resolving this issue is outside of my control, it is not outside of yours. Whether it's the example of supervising a club, staying to assist struggling students after school, or grading work and prepping lessons outside of contract hours, teachers deserve compensation for the time that they selflessly give to our student population. This is why I ask you today to consider that by refusing to write a new contract for our teachers, Ann Arbor Public Schools is not only endangering its quality of education, but also the community that we have all worked so hard to create in the schools that we attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam Hunter.
Hello, school board. I'm grateful to be here this evening. My name is Sam Hunter, and I'm a senior at Pioneer High School, and I support Ann Arbor teachers. I'm coming here to attest to the dire impact of the cancellation of club days due to the teachers' contracts being cut. Club time isn't just a time for students to come together and socialize. It's where students develop their passions and tackle the issues that are present in our society today. A club as simple as people might see, like Baking Club, has provided over 1,000 pastries to shelters just this year. They've raised over $5,000, and they've hosted monthly free baking classes for underprivileged youth for the past 3 months. At Pioneer, our robotics team has competed internationally against some of the most brilliant minds of our recent decade, from China and India and Pakistan and Russia and all over the world. And with the danger of Club Day not being present anymore, those opportunities, not only for students, but as the excellence that AAPS has displayed, they are threatened. AAPS has over 8 schools that are ranked in the top 50 schools in Michigan out of 1,680 schools. A lot of people have come up here and talked about the excellence that Ann Arbor Public Schools has displayed. And I think that the teacher contracts and students not being able to have club days is a serious issue for tens of thousands of kids that are in this district. They bring so much value to our community. We have donation drives and volunteer drives that I've seen personally funnel tens of thousands, up to $50,000 from schools and organizations into our community, to shelters, to places like the Alano Club, to Salvation Army, everything within our community. Without club days, students relying on these programs are no longer able to garner proper support. I myself run a mentorship program with over 500 students in it, mostly being 9th graders and sophomores, who are coming every week to learn, to partner up with their senior buddy, to express themselves, to learn about their passions, to learn about everything they can do to make themselves the best person. Without this club day, without the opportunity we have to teach these young students, they have not been able to do this. Somebody came up here and said, I had to talk to maybe 40 or 50 different 9th graders who don't understand why they're not able to meet with their mentors. And I understand that these issues can't just be solved by people coming up here and talking, but the students of Pioneer and the students of AAPS are willing to help, and they want to know what's going on. There hasn't been a lot of information that students are able to access or able to understand properly. And so we just need proper communication, and we need this issue to be solved, because this is one of the most serious issues that AAPS is facing right now for students. Thank you.
Thank you. Cody Ann Hall.
Hello, my name is Cody Hall. I am a student at Huron High School and I have a few things to say. No matter how many teachers and students speak up or protest about the pay cuts and lack of contract, nothing has changed. This issue does not only affect staff, it directly impacts us students in our educations as our teachers are leaving due to pay and unstable conditions creating shortages. We must raise our voices and demand change. There's absolutely no reason that this cannot be fixed. Do better.
Celine Karamanos Sabai. Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Selene. I'm a current University of Michigan student and a former Ann Arbor Public School student. And I want to keep this as short as possible because I know other people would like to speak tonight and they are more directly impacted by tonight's discussion than I am. And I want their voices to be heard. But I'd like to quickly speak to three things: teacher contracts, extracurriculars, and the proposed cell phone policy. I would not be where I am today without the teachers and staff members that supported me throughout high school. I have been to other schools in Michigan outside of Ann Arbor Public Schools. I have been to school outside of the state. I have seen what other teaching teams are like. Ann Arbor Public School teachers are exceptional, and they deserve compensation and support that reflects that. What they are being put through is forcing them to make choices they don't want to make. They are not withdrawing from student life because they don't care. They're withdrawing because they are being treated unfairly. I have personally been asked as a college student to step in and sponsor student clubs because teachers can no longer do it. That is not the fault of my friends in high school who need help getting their clubs running. That is not the fault of teachers standing with their union. That is the failure of this board to reach a fair agreement. Students are losing access to extracurriculars, which impacts future opportunities and chances to gain new experiences. The status of these negotiations impacts teachers, students, families, the surrounding community, and the reputation of the district as a whole, and the board needs to own that. On cell phones, I understand minimizing distractions in schools, but a bell-to-bell ban with no student access scares me as someone who has worked in school safety for the past 4 years. I'm typically brought in to testify on this issue in the Michigan legislature, but now I feel I have to do the same in my own backyard. In an emergency, students need to be able to communicate. We saw right here in this district at Hazley Elementary just last month how quickly safety situations can escalate. Removing a student's ability to call for help is a safety risk. So my ask is this: before this board finalizes any policy on cell phones, please bring trained school safety professionals to the table, as well as students. The people most affected and most knowledgeable about these decisions deserve a seat in the process. This board, I feel, has a pattern of making decisions without the right voices in the room, and students and teachers are paying the price. And lastly, elections for 4 seats on the school board are coming up later this year. You were elected to adequately and transparently represent the school community. That includes working with them on new policies, on contracts, on everything. And we are all paying close attention to the steps you take next. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public commentary.
We appreciate hearing from our community. The board would like to thank everyone who spoke and shared their comments tonight. Ms. Parks, are there any points of clarification?
Just a couple this evening. Excuse me, President Feaster, thank you. As the trustees know in the community, because we have brought these items before the board for your approval, which you have, there have been several updates over the past this year and last year at Huron High School, their athletics. You've received several items through the bond team, bringing those items forward for those updates and repairs at Huron High School, and those things will continue. So we'll continue to be in communication with the Huron team about what those necessary items are, but as you know, because you've approved them, we have been making steps to make some improvements in their facilities there. As it relates to our AAPS teachers, leaders, and staff, I hope it goes without saying that our educators are absolutely incredible professionals, and we do not take them for granted at all. We're absolutely committed to competitive wages for our educators, and we have to balance that with the overall financial health of our district as we continue to recover from our financial crisis. So until a new contract is reached, Our educators and staff do remain covered under the terms of the most recent contracts as required by law. And those current AAEA collective bargaining agreements include provisions for compensation for extracurricular activities. So it's not that teachers cannot be compensated for those things, because they can. There's contractual language that allows for compensation for those activities. But we do have to continue to rebuild thoughtfully and monitor our budget carefully, not because we don't value our educators and staff and students, but precisely because we do. And we want to create a sustainable path forward that allows us to support our staff with the compensation they deserve while maintaining our educational experiences for our students. So we value our partnerships with staff and are committed to finding collaborative solutions that keep staff and student experiences at the forefront. And that concludes the clarifications for me.
Thank you, Superintendent. I believe that brings us down to community feedback. Trustees, I would like to call your attention to the community feedback for tonight's meeting. Next, we have reports of associations. Ms. Ozinski, do we have a representative here from AAEA?
I see Mr. Klein coming to the podium.
Thank you. We welcome Mr. Klein to the podium.
Good evening, trustees, Superintendent Parks, Ann Arbor Public Schools community, talented and fierce AAEA members, and students here tonight. Thank you all. Your words were so powerful. Thank you. It means a lot to teachers. My name is Fred Klein, and I am proud to serve as the president of the Ann Arbor Education Association, which is the union representing the professional and educators of the Ann Arbor Public Schools. As I always like to do, I like to start out by highlighting some of the amazing work our members are doing. So I'd like to start by saying that the Columbia Scholastic Press Association has named AAEA member Tracy Anderson the 2026 National High School Journalism Teacher of the Year. Anderson, who has taught for 29 years and advised student publications for 26 years, leads a dynamic student-driven media program at Community High School. She empowers students to take editorial control, tackle complex social issues, and understand their legal rights as journalists, an approach that once led her students to publish a mental health op-ed in the New York Times and to appear on NPR. Tracy and her students have earned numerous national honors, including CSPA crowns and Gold Circle awards. As Teacher of the Year, she hopes to champion the essential role student journalists play in documenting their communities and preserving an evolving record of national history. Congratulations, Tracy. Secondly, with AI dominating the news lately, I want to highlight AAEA members Chris Thomas and Katie Bellows, who have been invited to bring students to the NEA's National Leadership Summit in Chicago this March to present their work with AAPS students and Dr. Heather Kellstrom on developing the district's AI Bill of Rights. Chris and Katie have been instrumental in guiding the student-informed policy recently highlighted at the 2025 Student Technology Showcase at the Michigan State Capitol. In partnership with Executive Director Heather Kellstrom, they have led a collaborative process that includes surveys, feedback cycles, and ongoing review to ensure the work reflects student voice, instructional best practices, privacy protections, and responsible AI use. Now in its seventh draft, the AI Bill of Rights is designed as a living document shaped by educator input across the district and reviewed annually to keep pace with this evolving technology. Congratulations to Chris and Katie on this important work. These amazing educators, along with all our members of the Ann Arbor Education Association, do extraordinary work every single day in our classrooms. Today, they continue to do that work without a contract. I'm hearing from our members daily. They do not feel valued by this board or administration. Morale is at an all-time low because once again, you, the school board, have not prioritized your dedicated, caring, and talented educators. Your position that there will be no raises without concessions demonstrates a profound level of disrespect for the professionals who serve this district's students every day. It also demonstrates a lack of respect for the students in the Ann Arbor Public Schools because the concessions the district is seeking will harm our students. So our fight is no longer just for ourselves, it has now become a fight for our students as well. I must remind the Ann Arbor Public Schools community that the district signed a joint statement with the AAEA a year ago acknowledging the inadequate compensation educators receive in this district. That joint statement recognized the need to address both salary and healthcare costs in order to become competitive with comparable districts while remaining fiscally responsible. It was a commitment to begin correcting years of stagnation. That is a joint statement the district has not lived up to, making it yet another empty promise. Expecting fair compensation is not greedy teachers saying, gimme, gimme, gimme. It is teachers saying, I want to stay in the Ann Arbor Public Schools. I love it here. I believe in this community. But because our compensation is not competitive, I can no longer afford to teach in this district. We are losing gifted educators regularly. In fact, another resignation letter came across my desk yesterday. And these teachers are leaving mid-year. They are making lateral moves to comparable districts where they receive higher salaries and more affordable health insurance. How unfortunate for our students. How sad for our community. At our last bargaining session, I believe it was on February 11th, the district requested that we move to mediated bargaining. A mediator from the Michigan Employment Relations Commission has been assigned, and we return to the bargaining table tomorrow at 9 a.m. The AAEA bargaining team will be there, ready to continue negotiating in good faith and to keep fighting for a fair contract for our members. We now find ourselves at a crossroads. We cannot continue down the road we have traveled for the past 20 years, a road filled with pay freezes, concessions, and unfulfilled promises. If we remain on this path, the district will continue to lose talented educators to neighboring districts, and our community will watch as AAPS becomes a shadow of its former self. You have a choice before you. Will you be the board that righted the ship, restoring respect, competitiveness, and stability to the district? Or will you be remembered as the board that played music on the foredeck while the ship sank? Our educators, our students, and our community deserve better. Thank you.
I believe that brings us to community group reports. Ms. Ozinski, do we have any groups signed up this evening?
We do. We have Karen Gerke here for the APEC.
Karen Gerke. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karen Gerke, and I'm a member of the Executive Board of APEC. Good evening, trustees, Superintendent Parks, and members of the AAPS leadership team. We are here tonight on behalf of APEC, which represents parents and caregivers of students receiving services under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and Section 504. We are grateful for the dedication of AAPS staff and for this district's strong tradition of academic distinction and inclusion. Ann Arbor is known for its commitment to equity and excellence. Students with disabilities must remain central to that commitment, especially during times of financial constraint. Our children with disabilities are among the most vulnerable students in this district. Stability, expertise, and consistency are not luxuries for them, they are necessities. Since our APEC board presented here in November, we have had 3 meetings with the OSC and leadership team. We have had 3 parent and caregiver meetings, which include the opportunities for parents to meet with OSC assistant directors prior to these meetings. And we have hosted 6 listening sessions for caregivers to ensure we are representing the voice of the community we advocate for. And we have met 4 times as a board to plan for these meetings and discuss how we can ensure every child has meaningful access to the curriculum. We take our roles seriously and want to be a resource to our community, to AAPS, and to this board. We appreciate your time to hear our voices and the voices of those we represent, 2,200 students in this district. However, we are deeply concerned about the following: special education budget deficits, teacher retention and staffing stability, consistency of services across buildings, communication and transparency, and the fidelity of IEP and 504 implementation. We want to ground tonight's concerns in data, compliance standards, and measurable indicators because it is not simply about perception. It is about documented risk factors that affect student outcomes, specifically for our students with disabilities. Under IDEA, districts are required to provide a free and appropriate public education, regardless of budget conditions. Financial hardship does not reduce that obligation. Data points that we would like the board to publicly track and report are current special education staffing, average special education caseload size by building, percentage of IEP service minutes delivered as written, and timeliness of initial evaluations, and compensatory services issued due to missed services. We'd like to note that when services are missed, the gap between our most vulnerable students and their peers continues to widen, and some of those gaping divides will never be closed. When caseloads rise above recommended practice standards, IEP compliance risk increases, progress monitoring decreases in quality, family disputes and due process complaints rise, and staff burnout accelerates. Research consistently shows that special education teacher turnover rates are significantly higher than general education. Nationally, special education turnover often exceeds 15% annually. When turnover increases, student progress stalls, compliance documentation errors increase, evaluation timelines are missed, and institutional knowledge is lost. We request that AAPS publicly report special education teacher vacancy rate and communicate those vacancies to families, average caseload per teacher at the elementary, middle school, and high school levels, and related service provider caseloads for SLPs, OT, social work, etc. Caseload transparencies allow families and the board to understand workload realities. If caseloads exceed sustainable thresholds, retention becomes mathematically unlikely. Families report wide variability between AAPS schools in availability of reading intervention programs, behavioral support staffing, paraprofessional allocation, implementation of accommodations, and implementation of MTSS, which is the multi-tiered system of supports. We recommend a district-wide implementation audit examining IEP fidelity. Are services actually delivered as written? Accommodation implementation monitoring, which should be viewable by families in Power School, paraprofessional assignment protocols, and MTSS integration with special education services. Equity means consistency. Students with disabilities should not experience a zip code lottery within the same district. When service minutes are missed due to staff shortages, families need to be notified in a timely manner and updated at regular intervals. Missed minutes need to be documented and available to families. Compensatory services need to be offered, again, in a timely manner. We request the reporting of percentage of IEPs with fully delivered service minutes, number of service interruptions exceeding 2 weeks, and compensatory service totals issued annually. Transparency in this area protects both families and the district. Families having access to basic documentation via Power School, including their child's IEP or 504, service notes, and accommodation tracking would aid transparency significantly. Data, transparency, and communication build trust. Ann Arbor Public Schools is a high-performing district with a reputation for academic excellence. Students with disabilities must be included in that excellence and not treated as a budget variable. Data-driven governance strengthens systems. Transparency protects students. Stability improves outcomes. Parents of children with disabilities, especially with those with additional medical needs, depend on schools to be community partners, not additional systems requiring constant advocacy. Many of the families that we represent already coordinate medical care, therapies, and supports across multiple providers. When securing basic access or required accommodations demands ongoing, diligent advocacy, it places an unsustainable burden on families. It is exhausting. We ask that students' rights be upheld with fidelity, consistency, and collaboration so that all children can access their education as intended. We know this report may come across as strong-handed. We truly value our relationship with district leadership and believe that we are actually working towards the same goals. Generations of caregivers and self-advocates who came before us fought for where our children are now, and we are here to take up the mantle of advocacy and champion a stronger, more accountable special education framework within AAPS. APEC also supports our teachers and support staff who deserve a contract that compensates them fairly and makes them feel valued so that they can best serve our vulnerable students. Thank you.
President Feaster, I missed AAEA paraprofessionals. Ms. Arthurs is here to make a report, if that's okay.
Miss who? Oh,
Claire
hello.
Arthurs.
Hello, Miss. I'm sure we can carve out 5 or 10 minutes from Miss Arthurs. Good to see you. Hello.
Good to see you. How are you? Greetings, trustees, Superintendent Parks, AAPS staff, and families at home. I'm grateful for your time. Thank you for those who spoke before, particularly our students who are phenomenal, Fred Klein and APAC, for highlighting many concerns that we share in AAEAP. I appreciated hearing APAC's statements regarding IEP compliance risk increasing and staff burnout accelerating. I can't really put our concerns in a nutshell faster than those 2 bullet points. Today I heard from, or not today, today marks the day I heard from the 3rd of 3 former TAs joyfully encouraging me to continue to fight the fight, but also letting me know how very much happier they are at their new position. They are better paid, they feel better supported, and they go home with fewer worries about their students. The reality is, none of us are here for the money. We are here because we love our jobs and we love our students. They are the reason we get up every day. They are the reason that we study to learn more about how to treat them better. We serve them as if they are our own children, and for many of our members, they are our own children. It is heartbreaking to see their needs not being met. When we are not supporting teachers, their needs are not being met. When we are not supporting office professionals who also have a contract expired, their needs are not being met. When we are not supporting TAs, community assistants, RBTs, and the rest of the unit that I support, preschool teachers, there's more and more, our students' needs are not met. We are a union of paraeducators. We're just one of many groups within Ann Arbor that deeply support students behind the scenes. We often get very little recognition. We firmly agree that experience matters. If any of you have ever transitioned jobs, you know how hard it is in the first year or 2. Our current educational landscape, to be a teaching assistant, community assistant, it's rapidly changing as the policies of special education and educational reform in general are all moving as fast as a dime. Strong educators and strong administrators of educational institutions want what is best. Often, new staff are still learning, and so the practices are changing and being shaped. What this means is those of us who have been here for a while should be treasured like the absolute gems that we are. When I hear that teachers and staff, that over 40 to 60% of us have not gotten our steps, the subtext of that is what an incredible treasure you have as a district of talented staff who come back with experience again and again. Members of AEAP are frustrated. We're very tired of seeing even more colleagues leave. We're appalled when we hear the district equating barely trained substitutes to being the same as experienced AEAP staff with decades of training. Either the district is investing in experienced staff or they aren't. Either they're looking out for what's best for the students or they aren't. The reality is, we, in many ways, are the cornerstone of the relationship and safe spaces for Ann Arbor students. I've shared before how many of us have spent years with these individuals and have worked with them in multiple capacities. Often, our staff were the people who helped staff clubs, lunch support, before school support. But because we've been feeling less and less valued, and because there's been fewer and fewer of us, that responsibility has fallen even more to teachers than it did in the past. When you had more AEAP members, this did not happen. The district has shared both privately and openly that it feels that many members of AEAP are somewhat transitory by nature. This is true for some individuals, and I recognize that. Many of you being a TA as a stepping stone to another job, or a community assistant as a stepping stone that they're doing while they're earning a degree to do something else. Many of us are not. A lot of us love our craft. We love what we do. We are not transitory. Rather than recognizing how many of us have deeply invested to double down to keep us stay in our schools, keeping our students safe, supporting our colleagues, there's a choice that we make every day to get up and go to work. We get paid barely peanuts because we love our students and we love what we do. Yet we seem to be viewed as transitory, nomadic, and utterly replaceable. To the students of Ann Arbor, to the public, to their families, we're not easily replaceable. To the moms and dads and grandparents of the APAC community, they care about their teaching assistants. They care about their community assistants. We are not Kleenexes you can simply go through and discard waiting for the next one. Yet, sometimes, the actions of the district, this is how we feel. In repeatedly not listening to our voice regarding safety concerns, in telling me a trained substitute passing a work keys has the same experience as a decade, the district seems okay with us being disposable, and I find that shameful. I also find it logically impractical and fiscally unwise. If your budget is founded on retaining student numbers and your goal is to increase those numbers, having quality staff who support them should be a solid investment strategy. It was hard for me to write this. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I have been sick with a head cold the last 2 days. I called out sick yesterday and this morning. While sick, these are some of the things that I have been doing while sick. I have been talking to members who are responding to feeling written up for missing time to take care of ailing relatives. I have one member whose family is in the hospital in a crisis and who's been threatened with disciplinary action. I have members who are telling me that they can't pay their bills and they're wondering, when will this be over? When will we know? And I have to say, I don't know. And what I want to say is, if you're really lucky and you work 25 years, you can earn $25,000. And that's absurd. I hear that. I'm sorry. So the speech was very hard to write because I care about the people we're bargaining with. They are individuals. You guys are all individuals. You are all wonderful. Somewhere systemically, things are broken. I don't know who it is. I don't want to cast aspersions one way or another, but there is a disconnect and it is broken. You can't tell me you are investing in us when you are paying us so little. You can't tell me you're investing in us when, we have TAs who are in their student teaching placement, and instead of being allowed to learn, they're being pulled back into their classroom. You can't tell me this when TAs who are owed $75 to be in a self-contained classroom and cover it when there's a substitute, because we know that when there's a substitute, the TA is usually the person who runs that building, runs that room. It's an MOA, it's part of our contract. They're not getting their $75. They're having to argue for it. They're having to fight for it. We have a situation where there's mistakes being made by other people, and we are supposed to give those mistakes grace and caring, and I want to. I do. I don't want to come up here and be adversarial. That's not my intent. That's not my goal. I feel like our unit is being stepped on. I feel like it's being stepped on repeatedly and repeatedly. I don't know if it's a lack of self-awareness or a lack of care. From the people I talk to, I think it might be more self-awareness, but I'm not sure. Either way, it is harming our students. We care about our students, and when our staff are being written up for not being able to be there because they have to be with their family, when those staff are quitting because they feel so unsupported by their principals, most of our principals, I should say, are very supportive of our AEAP members, and most of our AEAP members acknowledge and repeatedly tell me how much they feel allyship with both the teachers and the principals. Some principals, we had a TA since I saw you last who was threatened to be killed by a student, reported it to their upper level, and was laughed at and didn't have any follow-up until they contacted me, and I contacted HR, who was on top of it and amazing. This is one of several stories. There's a couple of schools in the district where people do not feel valued, and the messages that you send speak louder than simple words or platitudes. If you can't give us funds, can you give us grace? If you can't give us grace, can you give us support? There are so many different ways that could be helpful, and instead, right now, most of the people that I'm talking to are trying to figure out where they can go next. Is it worth staying? And they don't, because they're so worried about the kids. We love our students. When I have to take time off for union work or when I took time off to be sick, I'm sad. I miss Tappan. I love being at Tappan. I love supporting my students. I love helping the teachers. We want to show up every day. It is emotionally an insane process to have to figure out if you should buy your family groceries and get a job that pays more, or if you should keep supporting some of the most at-risk kids in our entire district. I'm asking you to please invest in us. I'm asking you to please make a change. Thank you for your time.
If there's no one else, I believe that brings us down to board committee reports, and I believe the governance committee met. I was not present, so I will turn it over to Treasurer Wilkerson. Maybe you can give a report about what occurred at the governance committee meeting.
Sure, happy to do so. Excuse me. The governance committee met on Monday, the 23rd at 4:30 p.m. We briefly discussed the 3 changes to our standing committee structure that are going to come before the board tonight. So there's a policy on duties, one on membership, and then revisions to policy 1100 for board officer duties as well. Those will be presented at a later time tonight.
Thank you, Trustee Wilkerson. I believe that brings us down to number 8, information and our superintendent update. I will turn it over to Superintendent Parks.
Thank you, President Feaster. AAPS joins the Rotary and Food Gatherers each year in a 2-week community-wide effort to fight hunger. The official kickoff for the 2026 year begins on Monday, March 9th and runs through Friday, March 20th. Many of our schools, student clubs, and building groups have formed teams to collect non-perishable food and make financial contributions. The AAPS invites any community members who would like to participate with us to do so at the Rotary Food Gatherers link on the website. Trustees and community, we are happy to report that kindergarten roundups and incoming 6th grade orientation nights have been underway all month, and our last few are wrapping up this week. We are always excited each year to share with families the fun and great learning opportunities that await our new young 5s, kindergartners, and middle school students. Next week, we will take the time to appreciate during the first full week of March and recognize and celebrate our school social workers. School social workers are highly valued members and integral to each school's multidisciplinary support team. Research indicates that school mental health and support programs improve educational outcomes by decreasing absences, dropout rates, and discipline referrals, while also improving academic achievement. We join with students, the AAPS team, and families to celebrate our school social workers who inspire us with hope, understanding, and respect in their work every day. March also kicks off National Reading Month. And school children in classrooms across the country kick off National Reading Month by celebrating the birthday of Dr. Seuss. Teachers design contests, family literacy events, and other activities, including providing regular times for uninterrupted reading. With help from Read Across America, their goal is to motivate kids each year to read more. Evidence suggests that reading for pleasure every day helps students perform better in school, develop a broader vocabulary, and gain a better understanding of other cultures. Take the opportunity this month to enjoy reading with your children. March also is the month that we acknowledge Women's History Month, which provides us an opportunity to celebrate and reflect on the contributions of countless women who have fought tirelessly and with great courage for equality, justice, and opportunity. The National Women's History Alliance has selected the 2026 theme for Women's History Month, Leading the Change, Women Shaping a Sustainable Future, which affirms that shaping a sustainable future means fostering systems that support both people and the planet. We honor and celebrate the diverse contributions of women who are leading sustainability efforts across environment, economic, educational, and social justice movements. This year's focus expands our understanding of sustainability beyond just environmental concerns. It encompasses financial sustainability, community resilience, leadership succession, and intergenerational equity. Whether developing green technologies, advancing economic justice, strengthening education systems, or building civic power, women are designing blueprints for sustainable transformation. March is also Youth Art Month, which was established in 1961 and is an annual celebration showcasing the creativity of young artists from Ann Arbor Public Schools. Coordinated with Ann Arbor art teachers, this vibrant event brings student artwork to participating downtown businesses, transforming storefronts into community galleries, and thereby providing our AAPS students with a unique opportunity to display their work in public settings. In partnership with Main Street Ann Arbor, Youth Art Month provides a forum for acknowledging the important skills and connections that are possible through art. Art education develops self-esteem, self-expression, collaboration with others, and critical thinking skills. Lastly, in March, next week on Thursday, March 5th, we will have our annual AAPS Orchestra Night at Hill Auditorium. Orchestra Night features performances by our amazing and talented AAPS student musicians from our middle school orchestras at Ann Arbor Open, A2 Steam, Clay, Forsyth, Scarlett, Slauson, and Tappan, and our AAPS High School Symphony Orchestras from Huron, Pioneer, and Skyline, who will perform Pictures at an Exhibition of Morgowski, Danzon No. 2 by Marquez, and Overture from Romeo and Juliet by Tchaikovsky, respectively. Many thanks to our incredible AAPS music teachers for their tireless efforts and for the support of our AAPS parents and community in this important work. And we will close out the superintendent's update this evening with a negotiations update from Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and Employee Relations, Ms. Langford.
Good evening, and thank you. I just wanted to give a brief update on negotiations and also address just a few things contractually that were stated this evening. So I just wanted to start with Ms. Arthur's statement regarding TAs and not being paid what they were supposed to be paid for specific students that they work with. And I just wanted to state that the HR department and finance are following the contract and ensuring that anyone who is supposed to be paid extra for whatever duties that is being followed. Although, again, I will not discuss personnel matters here, I do want to state, and I appreciate Ms. Arthur stating, that anytime an issue is brought forward to HR, we do investigate it, and we do ensure that the contract is being followed. Oftentimes, the contract is being followed. People are just not happy with what it says. So I just wanted to talk about those two specific items in regard to the parapro unit. Addressing a few other things this evening, and I think Ms. Parks or Superintendent Parks did speak to them. The district is not asking at all for teachers to work outside of their contract without pay. We are offering compensation. That's part of their contract. So that would include things like clubs or kindergarten roundup or any other activities that occur outside of their contractual hours are paid. In regard to the joint statement that we heard tonight, the district in good faith did sign a joint statement with the union, and I know that you all are probably familiar with that as we brought it forward to you as well. That joint statement stated that we would sit down and work on competitive salaries while remaining fiscally responsible. So we did meet, we held several sessions, we even developed potential salary schedules, and we were working towards creating just a different salary structure, and these were kind of proposals that we put together. The part of the joint statement that seems to be not discussed is that part of it stated that we needed to remain fiscally responsible. With the current status of our fund balance and risk of falling below 5%, the 5% minimum state requirement, increases can't happen overnight as much as we would like them to. And finally, Mr. Klein spoke to mediation. We do have mediation that will begin tomorrow. The district sees this as just the next step of the process. It's just another resource to help us get to some solution or conclusion with contracts. It's an outside mediator that's assigned by the state who will just assist us with navigating the process. And we're hoping that at the end of this, maybe we can come up with some collective agreement. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Langford. That concludes the superintendent's update.
Thank you. I believe that brings us down to 8.2, Arts and Letters Literacy Grant Implementation Update. And it looks like we're going to have Ms. Dawn Linden, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, appearing remotely.
Yep, she's going to be on the screen, Ms. Linden, as well as Kristen Smith, who is our elementary ELA and social studies curriculum coordinator. They will be providing an update this evening on the elementary arts and letters literacy grant implementation. As trustees know, we brought forward, with your approval, a new literacy curriculum in our elementary schools this year. And so Ms. Linden and Ms. Smith are going to provide an update on how things are going this year. So we'll get them up on the screen and hear from them this evening.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Parks, President Feaster, trustees. It's our great honor to be here this evening providing you an update on the Arts and Letters Literacy Grant funded curriculum that began its full implementation this fall. And as Superintendent Parks mentioned, I'm joined tonight by Kristen Smith, who has led this effort all along the way. We are very blessed to have her. She is our district ELA and social studies coordinator. And she will share some of the details about implementation and highlight some of the reasons why this particular curriculum is so strong. So we'll go ahead and give this a start. Tonight, we'll spend about 10 minutes sharing some trends from a winter caregiver survey that we delivered. We'll share some highlights of the current modules being taught and also some highlights of the cross-curricular strengths of the program. And this is the next slide. Thank you very much. We'll share some of those cross-curricular strengths of the program, which are highlights and part of the reason why this program is so strong. So we do want to share those with you this evening, just a sampling. And then finally, we'll go on to next steps. Thank you. This is just the header of the Arts and Letters Caregiver Survey that we started issuing on December 19th. We left that survey open for about a month. We did prompt people multiple times. We know how busy our families are, and we made an effort to keep the survey very, very short. It's only 3 questions. It took less than 5 minutes. So we're really grateful to the 572 caregivers who took part in this survey. They did have representation across all 21 schools and all grade levels. So here are some highlights of what our caregivers had to say about the program. And I'll let you go ahead and read these, but generally we asked about, does your child talk about the Arts and Letters curriculum and what they're learning at home? And these are some of the responses that we received. One from Alan, one from Dick, and one from A2 STEAM. And they are really representative of a lot of the comments that we received during the survey, that they talk about what they're reading at home, that they show excitement about it, that they show a desire to learn more about that particular topic, and that they find it engaging. On the next slide, you will see some of the survey trends summarized here. Excitement about books that they are reading, pride in their writing was really prevalent, enjoyment in talking about their work with family, increased motivation to read independently. We heard from many families saying, my children didn't like reading before, but now they're asking to go to the library, they're asking to read together at night, which is just wonderful. Parents reported and caregivers reported students sharing specific books that they really enjoyed, even mentioning the authors, new vocabulary, facts, and ideas they've been learning about. And this really suggests that the cross-curricular exposure that the program provides is building that background knowledge that is really going to serve our students, not just in literacy, but in life. And then finally, we asked if they're noticing any growth or impact of the curriculum. And this is the summary of that piece, that they noticed improved fluency and confidence, that their writing had increased both in volume and quality or detail, that they had more willingness to try challenging things. They didn't give up when they came across challenging words or content, and that their spelling, sentence structure, and idea development has gotten stronger. We have also heard some of the opposite about spelling and the need for more concrete assistance with students who struggle with spelling, and that comes from our phonics phonemic awareness programming. And there's always room for improvement. So in the next slide, we're highlighting some of the things that really came through as questions and concerns that families had, and we really want to address those in the form of a webinar that we're inviting our families to attend, because we want this to be dynamic. We are in partnership with our families when it comes to literacy development, and we really listened when they told us there were concerns. And so we want to have the webinar to explain why some of the curricular elements happen the way they do. Primarily the structure of the program, why students read the same text together, why they have discussion circles, what we call Socratic discussion about those ideas and the content. We want to talk about why books are read multiple times and why the ELA block is so much longer than it may have seemed in the past. And so those are the common threads and the questions we heard on sort of the concern side. We'll also provide in that webinar an opportunity for families to share additional questions and for us to answer those dynamically during that evening webinar. So I want to thank Kristen and her BLC team for helping to support that webinar on March 18th, 6 p.m. And finally, we'll move into Kristen's slides where she gets to highlight all the fun things that are going on in the curriculum.
Thank you so much, Ms. Linden. So now we would like to share just a glimpse at a few of the modules that are currently being taught in our classrooms. And I think they really highlight some of the rationale for the caregiver feedback that was just highlighted in the previous slides. So our AAPS second graders are currently engaged in the third module of instruction called Civil Rights Advocates. And in this module, our students are learning about the many people who have fought for their civil rights throughout our nation's history. Students explore a variety of responses to injustice that elicited change. And so through the deep analysis of many of the texts and art pieces and articles that you see on the screen, they learn about the power of words, actions, and laws, all while continuing to come back to the essential question of the module, which is how did civil rights advocates respond to injustice? The culminating task of this module is for students to write 2 informational paragraphs explaining how advocates of their choice responded to injustice. You can move to the next slide. Our AAPS third graders are currently engaged in Module 3 also, which is titled A New Home. And in this module, students are learning about why people chose to leave their country of origin and how they preserve traditions and memories as they build new lives in the United States. Again, students will engage with multiple texts and poems, articles, and artwork in this module, all while they reflect on the question, how do stories help us understand immigrants' experiences? At the end of this module, students write a narrative story about a character who moves to a new country. Next slide, please. We'd also like to take a quick moment this evening to highlight how our incredible teachers are connecting arts and letters content to the broader community and world, creating learning experiences that are extending far beyond the ELA block. At Allen Elementary, 2 undergraduate meteorology students from University of Michigan came and presented to first graders about the wind, weather patterns, and how weather can impact us, all to support Module 3, Wind Power. In this module, students are seeking to answer the essential question, how is the wind powerful? Next slide, please. University of Michigan running back Justice Haynes visited our 4th graders at Logan Elementary, who were learning what it meant to have a literal and figurative great heart. Justice read a book about the heart to students and then taught them how athletes keep their hearts healthy through diet, exercise, and relaxation techniques. Next slide, please. Geologist Naomi Levin visited our 5th graders at Eberwhite to teach them how to examine rock samples and test for limestone, all in support of their learning for Module 2, extreme settings. And then next slide, please. Here are a few glimpses at some of our kindergarteners. Kindergarteners from Wines who visited the Domino's Farm Petting Zoo, and then our Abbott kindergarteners who received a visit from Argus Farms to learn more about vegetables and farm animals in support of their second module, Once Upon a Farm. These are just a few very small examples to highlight how Arts and Letters is not only supporting the development of skilled readers and writers, but is also building deep content knowledge and sparking engagement and curiosity in our students.
Thank you very much, Kristen. And we'll wrap with some of our next steps, just reiterating what we're doing over the course of this year and what we'll continue doing between now and the end of the school year. So we are carefully monitoring student progress right now. The BLCs and our gifted and incredible teachers who've worked so very hard to learn the new curriculum and to become familiar and adept at facilitating the routines and the pacing this year. They are monitoring very carefully how students are progressing, and we will continue to do so at the district level. So by the end of the year, you can look forward to more data that we'll come back to share with you about how the first year of impact on students has wrapped and what we plan to do regarding those data points for next year. In addition, we will be asking students their impressions about the year, the curriculum, their growth, particularly in their reading comprehension and their writing, which is Arts and Letters. And we'll be asking teachers and caregivers yet again about their experiences at the end of the year. Finally, we use all of those data points to be able to support our teachers with professional learning that's in response to those data points. And we will very carefully craft that so that we're improving annually in both our implementation of the program and also the impact on students. So we already know that the art form that is connected to differentiating instruction is something that can be enhanced in year two. Year one is really about fidelity of implementation of the program and learning it. And we look forward to having a greater capacity next year in adapting and making differentiation happen for students. So we thank you. Kristen and I are here for questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Trustees, are there any questions? I figured our expert might have some comments.
I'm not an expert, but I have lots of questions.
Trustee Schmidt.
Okay, so you're giving us a lot of excitement. I've heard from the students I work with that they like the books, and I hear about arteries and different things you're talking about. As we voted on what the plan was for literacy, there was a marriage between Arts and Letters and UFly. And I know that the state law, which has been in place for many years, the third grade reading law, which has been updated, we're looking at data 3 times a year to look at foundational reading skills, decoding skills, sound symbol correspondence knowledge. What do we have? What can be reported to the board to show us where we are on teachers knowing how to use UFly, what's really happening in early interventions with kids that run into problems? Because the things I'm seeing in this program, which are great, these are the result of kids having foundational skills. Because I don't know how much Arts and Letters, because I'm not that familiar with the program, how that's really being handled, because that has to be taken care of for the rest of the skills to develop. Is that clear?
Yeah, very much so. Thank you for raising it. This particular update is about that implementation, but you're absolutely right. A few years ago, we implemented UFly, and we have continued to train and invest in teacher capacity on UFly as well. That remains a very solid and strong part of the program. And Kristen can talk about the PRAS, which is the assessment that is delivered to students who are identified as having decoding needs and support needs in that area, and they are carefully monitored. So Kristen, would you like to share a little more about that assessment?
Sure. So I think we've spoken about this in the past as we were talking about our entire literacy plan last spring, which includes obviously instruction for word recognition strands. Arts and letters covers those language comprehension strands, but we are very much still focused on making sure that our students are becoming strong decoders and encoders. So we use an assessment. We use it. It's required in kindergarten through second grade. And then for any of our striving readers in third through fifth grade, it's called the Phonics Reading and Spelling Survey. And it helps us to monitor students' ability to decode and encode phonetic patterns. So starting at letter name, letter sound, all the way through multisyllabic words. So that's given multiple times a year at different points and is also used to do some progress monitoring in between.
Okay. And I know we're waiting to see the state coming out with a list for assessments that'll be able to be used for that 3 times a year. I don't know if the PRAS will be one of those, but they're waiting. Their requests for proposals are out right now, so then we'll have to choose from that list. Okay. That's good so far. I'll get back to you with more questions.
I will just add that the state was required to release the list by January. They have released 2.
Yeah,
that
I've
have
seen that.
passed, but they also admit that they have many more they still need to review. So they have 3 or 4 more dates when they will be releasing them. So it's going to trickle out. I think the last release will be September 30th or something. So we are going to just wait and see what comes out so that we can make the best decision we can. The press is serving us really well right now, and we'd be happy to talk more about data with you. It's important.
And for my fellow board members and anybody that's watching this meeting tonight, the problem we run into are kids in the early grades that don't understand how the system of reading works. And 40% of our kids, they're going to learn no matter how we teach them. They're going to see the system. But the 60% that don't understand how the system works at a very early age will struggle. And of course, in that group are kids with dyslexia, which we still have to have some conversations about what we're doing in the district to address that 7 to 15% of kids. You know, that's debatable. But this is huge because those children that don't learn to read by third grade, it is so hard to catch them up. And by the time they hit middle school, you know, then we have behavior problems and all the others. They end up in special ed and those extra costs. And this can all be addressed, most of these cases, if we do our job K-3. So it's just,
totally agree with you.
You know, we just have to be all over this.
Yes, we do. I could not agree more.
Yeah. So thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Any other questions, trustees? Trustee Wilkerson?
Yeah, I have a couple quick ones. The initial feedback, that was just from the first 5 months of school. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
And then is there anything that doesn't align with the results of our pilot program you've seen thus far?
No, I think we've gotten exactly what we expected. We were pretty careful in that analysis and the pre-training and that very, very thoughtful pilot. So I have not seen any surprises. Kristen, anything that surprised you or was not aligned?
I can't say that there is, and I think that was a key part of our final selection was choosing the instructional material or arts and letters that most closely aligned with remedying concerns that came up during the pilot. So I think that we're seeing a lot of the things that maybe had been a concern in the other curriculum that we piloted addressed in arts and letters. But thank you for that question.
It's a very good question.
Definitely. Sorry, one other question too. I know we saw some good results from STEAM, but in our differentiated learning programs, STEAM and Open, that kind of take a little bit different approach. Are these rolling out effectively in those areas?
They are, and I know it's been a challenge for staff, you know, who are very invested and have spent a great deal of time and energy, you know, developing the project-based units. I will just say that This curriculum is critically important because when you look at our recent achievement report to the Board of Education, you will see our M-STEP scores and what they say about students' literacy skills. And it is a crisis for us that we needed to address immediately. So there will be shifts and changes. There will be ways for the project-based learning to be reintroduced, but it does require some alignment with those themes. And I will just reiterate that when Kristen was sharing the cross-curricular content and all those opportunities, that's one of the reasons we chose this program, because it could work so well in a project-based unit for folks to take that and build on it. So I really hope that STEAM and Ann Arbor Open take it and really enrich it in their science and social studies connections and the arts connections. It could be very powerful there. So thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Anything else, trustees? Seeing nothing, if that concludes our presentation, thank you both so much. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Smith and Ms. Linden.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that will bring us down to 8.3, AAPS School Safety Update. And it looks like we're going to have Ms. Margolius, Executive Director of Student and School Safety, and Mr. Jason Russell, President of Secure Environment Consultants.
Thank you very much. President Feaster, you've done the intro, so I'll turn it over to Ms. Margolis here to get us started. And again, welcome to our guest, Mr. Russell, Jason Russell, who is our consultant through Secure Environment Consultants, which help to do our school safety assessment. So, Ms. Margolis, turn it over to you.
Thank you, everyone, very much. I'm pleased tonight to be here to give you a pretty thorough update on our school safety initiatives, our protocols. I'm going to hand it off throughout a little later in this presentation to Mr. Russell, who's going to talk about our long partnership with his company and the safety assessments. So we can pull up the slides, please. Okay, we can go to the next slide's pretty. Go on to the next one. So school safety is really our top priority within the Ann Arbor Public School Districts. Always. We always talk, and our actions show that it is our top priority. Keeping our students safe and our staff remains that top priority even before our critical mission of teaching and learning. We operate under a holistic school safety approach. We take the responsibility of students, staff, and school safety very seriously, as well as continually making improvements to our protocols. Our teachers, staff, and our leaders are trained regularly, and safety protocols are in place in all of our classrooms and all of our schools. But one of the most important components is the partnership we have with our families and the community. It really is about see something, say something that we ask be practiced by everyone. These are some of the things, these little puzzle pieces that we put together that we believe that everyone in the Ann Arbor Public Schools deserves to feel safe. Safety is multi-layered. It includes training, protocols, technology, and facilities. It is multidimensional, which is physical, emotional, and social safety. And school safety can exist with a welcoming and inclusive learning environment. That's really important to us. And school safety extends beyond the school doors and is a shared community responsibility. Our approach to school safety, we strive to regularly update our protocols in keeping with best practices. We continually assess our protocols to improve our outcomes. We also compare our protocols against findings from each nationwide school intruder incident, and we include our protocols and our responsive measures. They're proactive, I should say. So a safe school means safe students. And again, I'm going to say this a few times, it takes the whole community. And see something, say something is more than just a catchphrase. It really, truly can save lives. Let's go into some of the components of our school safety plan. I'm going to sort of touch base on all this long list. I'll get through them as quickly as I can. We can go into the first one. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our protocols and training, which includes our standard safety procedures, our drills, our exercises, tabletops, and how we use ALICE response method in this district. So our safety protocols, we use the Raptor platform that does our visitor management program, as well as our drill manager and student safe. The visitor management is currently used in every single school, and it is very important that during any kind of emergency situation, we can account for everyone in the school. And that is why, instead of, we used to go into our schools and we'd have people sign in and we'd have a hard copy version. This helps us electronically keep it in one place that we can access at any time if we need to account and do a reunification. It also provides instant and automatic screenings against the National Sex Offender Registry, and we can also do custom alerts in it as well. Also, it's really important that everyone has a consistent visitor badge that they are wearing when they're walking around our schools so that our staff recognizes the purpose of that person in our schools. The drill manager off of Raptor is what we use to initiate all our drills, and staff do it either through an app on their cell phone or their laptop. And the drill manager also accounts for our reunification process, accounting for all of our students, and we use it in our Family Assistance Center. So not only do we practice our drills with drill manager, but we also, for real emergency situations, utilize the same device. Student Safe is also part of Raptor's platform, and this is where we conduct our threat assessments and our Columbia screenings, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So in our protocols and trainings, again, we use Raptor Alert, which is an app on cell phones or in the laptops. And in that app, we have 5 different responses that we do for different types of emergencies. We use the lockdown button, which is practices our ALICE protocol, and that's if a person has entered the building and is an immediate threat to our schools. The lockout is if a person or persons are outside of our building and may present a threat, but it isn't directly related to school. A good example of that is a bank robbery near a school. That means we will not have people go in or outside the school, but the school day continues. Evacuate. This is used for many different situations, such as fire, gas leaks, chemical spills, where we need to get students outside of the school quickly. Shelter in place is our severe weather button that we use when we are practicing and when we may have a severe weather warning. And then hold is actually frequently used. It keeps students in their classrooms during a situation that may be happening in the school. Most of the time it's a medical emergency, and we don't want students in the hallway while we address that. Those are actually what the buttons look like on the Raptor app and on the laptop when people need to make, and anyone can set those buttons off, which then a group of us at the administration level get those notifications, and then by school. Quickly, I want to go through what the state of Michigan requires for our drills. So under Public Act 12 of 2014, we are required to do a minimum of 5 fire drills each year. Also, we have to do 2 weather safety. Generally, those are tornado drills. And then our lockdown drills, a minimum of 3. And one of those has to occur during either recess, lunch, or class passing time. And by September 15th of every year, we have to have those drills planned. They appear on each school's website, and we report them not only to the county, but also to the city emergency manager after each drill is completed. We do many exercises and tabletops within our district. Many of you know about our June full-scale exercise we did with the city of Ann Arbor. That was actually, since I've been here in the early 2000s, our third time that we've done a district-wide full-scale event. The June 25th exercise, we had over 250 participants, list all of the people involved there. It took us about a year to plan, working with the city's emergency manager. It was an event that was held to plan and assess the response to a mass casualty in a school. And then now what we are doing is our after action report. We are applying what we've learned, not just only within the school district, but also all of our law enforcement and our emergency response teams are changing some of their protocols based on what we learned. We also frequently will do school-based tabletops or district-wide tabletops, and we have a few of those planned yet this year. I want to quickly go through ALICE. This is the protocol that every public school district in Washtenaw County uses. It is called ALICE because it's not a sequential thing, but it stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. And we put all of our staff through this. It's a 2-hour ALICE training that we do with the Ann Arbor Police Department. And we do an hour of classroom, and then generally we go through 2 to 3 scenarios where we actually take staff into classrooms and we do some scenarios so that they can practice these different techniques. It is all about filling the gap until law enforcement arrives to an emergency situation. So what does ALICE really stand for? The alert in ALICE is about getting the word out. The lockdown is ensuring that your doors are closed and locked, securing students in designated areas. Inform, we need to continually inform what's happening. We can do that through our Raptor app. There is a texting device in the Raptor app that allows us to give updates and communicate back and forth. Even yelling down the hall, those types of things are really important. Countering is a part of ALICE that we only teach staff to do. It is a last resort situation, and evacuate is always the first choice if it's available to get out. ALICE was really started when after a couple of situations, I can think of the one at Virginia Tech, where many students had the ability to evacuate, but they were never taught to do that. They never shared that with them, and so they locked down and stayed in their classrooms for hours when they had a lot of opportunities to evacuate. So that's when response techniques started changing, and ALICE is one of those protocols. So a little bit about ALICE here, and I won't go through all this, but we do not teach ALICE in the classrooms. At the elementary level, everything is age appropriate. The first few drills that happen at the school year, teachers, we give them age appropriate discussion points to have with their kids. They do that. The first drill, especially at the elementaries, is always a discussion. They don't actually do anything. They have a discussion with their students about what can we do when we hear that alarm go off, or when our teacher tells us we need to do something that's very important. So those are different discussions based on the age of the students. We always emphasize that the teacher is a leader and in control during an emergency, and this is equally important. Our volunteers that are in school, we teach them as well that they're not alone with students, and that they have to take direction from the staff. So I'm going to now hand it over to Jason, who is going to talk about the school safety assessments that we have done a few times here in the district.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you for inviting me. So my company works with about 75% of the school districts in Michigan. Majority of what we do is in the assessment and training area. So we began working with Ann Arbor Public Schools. Actually, our first round of assessments was in 2018, and we've actually done 3 rounds of assessments with the district. It's actually the most continuous assessments that we've done with the district anywhere in the state of Michigan. So it's not something that was a one and done here. The 2018 assessments were actually very proactive. It was a lot of schools weren't doing assessments at that time. And then the 2 subsequent rounds were grant-funded assessments. So they included both a traditional assessment where we look at the physical security of the schools, but we also look at policies, procedures, and we make recommendations in each of those cases on ways to kind of improve. And we really pay attention to what's possible, not, what's probable is a big part of that as well. But we're also thinking about budget and culture and all those things as we're making recommendations so they fit the organization or the school district that we're working with. So the last two rounds were both grant-funded assessment rounds funded by the state of Michigan. And we also did some assessments for athletic events as well. So the assessments are really designed to look at everything that touches safety and security. So we're looking at what's surrounding the school. We're looking at obviously the physical security, but a lot of the focus is on policy and procedure. So looking at what's in place. And what I will say is, since our first round of assessments, the district has come a long way, particularly in terms of technology and training that it provides to staff. The alert technology that was described earlier and some of the other things things that have been done have really brought the district into into best practices. Every school is different. I think a lot of schools sometimes don't want to know. The one thing that's been very encouraging about Liz and Bernie and the team here is they're always open to continuous improvement. So not scared to ask for outside opinions, which isn't always common. Some people don't want you to come into their kingdom. And I've always found Ann Arbor to be very open about wanting to learn more. And Liz and I communicate regularly about kind of what's going on in the school safety world. Our aperture is really large. We work with a lot of school districts in Michigan, but we work with school districts all around the country. So it's important to really have that kind of broader perspective about what's going on with school safety, a larger picture across the country, and certainly here in Michigan. So that's a big part of the work that we do. We've also done some trainings for the district as well, some staff trainings, and supported even in some of the bond projects and in the design of schools and making sure that there's security and safety elements brought into play with that. And often Liz and I will have conversations, if there's a concern or an incident, or there's any support that's needed in terms of intelligence or anything like that, we'll communicate on those elements. I guess I can stop and ask if there's any questions for me before we turn it back over to Liz.
Mr. Muhammad?
Yeah, so where are these, where can we find the assessments? So it's good that we do them. I don't know when was the last time that it was done, but where are the findings and the reports of these assessments?
Yeah, so we turn the findings over to the district. We don't recommend that you would share those findings out widely because obviously there's some security sensitive elements in there. So usually what we share more is kind of the process that the district has gone through. Every time we do an assessment, we're still looking at the things we looked at previously. So it's always about continuously improving and also understanding there is limitations to what can be done. Obviously, we've had conversations and heard some conversations tonight about budget issues and things like that. So there's always restraints in terms of what can kind of be done. I think one of the issues schools often face isn't necessarily a safety reality issue. Often what we see is a shift in perception of safety. So when something happens or almost happens, our reality of safety really hasn't changed, but our perception has changed, right? And that's the case in every district that we deal with. So the district has all the rounds of reports, and I think as Liz and Superintendent Parks find appropriate, maybe sharing some of the big picture findings is appropriate, but we never want to share those reports in an open forum.
But those are available to the board? Okay.
Any other questions, trustees? Thank you for your report, and thank you for consulting and for doing it 3 times. We greatly appreciate it. So,
I think the last time we had SEC staff out was last spring when they were on our comprehensive athletic campuses as well. So that was the most recent. Okay, just to continue on, standard safety protocols. These are the things that we have in place right now and continually assess. We have all of our exterior school doors are locked during the school day. We do in the mornings about a 10-minute period, and in the afternoons have those doors open, but those doors are staffed during that entry time and the release of school. Our classroom doors right now should always remain in the locked position, but we do allow allow teachers to keep them propped and locked, but they always are in the locked position. Our substitute teachers receive online training from the WISD, plus we have these substitute folders where we have our basic protocols included. And then again, I said this before, our volunteers, they're never left alone with students, and AAPS is always the lead during a drill or an emergency situation with our volunteers. We have a very thorough vendor safety program in place with Mr. Rice's team. All vendors are required to have background checks prior to being on school property. They either are issued an AAPS ID or some do have their own very visible IDs that are approved vendors, and to wear a company, a logo shirt. They are always supposed to stop in at the main office to notify staff that they're there. Schools have emergency plans that are reviewed with the staff, and they also have relocation and reunification sites. Each school has those. Frequently, schools will then walk their staff during a staff meeting time to their relocation site so that they are familiar with that location. And the emergency plans include evacuation suite protocols and practices as well. All of our classrooms have red emergency bags, and we, a few years back, instituted trauma bags in our schools. So depending on the size of the school, they either have one, or if they have different levels, 2 or 3 trauma bags that include more things such as stop the bleed kits. So components of our school safety plan, I want to talk briefly about our crisis response, our MERT teams, and our CISM. So AAPS has a crisis response team that includes administrators, office professionals, counselors, social workers, and psychologists. When we do have a situation in a school, it could be the death of a student, death of a staff member, or some other type of emergency response situation, we have a team, a district team that comes to support that school. We do everything from helping with the communications to meeting with students and staff. It has a wide variety of the supports that we can give to that school. Every school has a medical emergency response team, MERT. Every school is trained, this team is trained in response and trauma with CPR and stop the bleed, as well as how to use the AED machines that we have throughout our schools. Our MERT teams are volunteer-based, and I have to tell you, they are wonderful. They are trained, our nurses act as the trainers, and our nurses obviously are part of those MERT teams, but these staff that have come forward to volunteer, they are frequently called in each school to come to a situation. So I really appreciate and highly regard the staff that have volunteered to be on their MERT teams. We also have a number of us in the district are trained in critical incident stress management, CISM. It's a system of crisis intervention to help people cope with trauma and provide important resources for them. We have about 12 to 15 of our staff members that have been trained. And again, we go out and help staff and students and families after a crisis situation and go through the CISM method. So APS debriefs. We debrief after all incidents, again, looking to improve our response. As a result, over the years, the most recent years of our continuous improvement, we have, as I mentioned, implemented the visitor management protocol. We have actually put in exterior numberings on all of our classrooms. If you may not notice it, if you drive by one of our schools, you'll still see a number on all the classroom windows and all the office windows. That's to assist law enforcement. We can direct them better from outside where a situation that they might be needed. Our MERT teams that I just discussed, as well as our trauma bags, fire and police access. All of the Ann Arbor Police and our fire trucks, as well as Pittsfield Township for Carpenter, have access badges, and a key to get them into a school for an emergency situation. We were fortunate to get funding, and we have put in critical incident mapping that gives all the way from a bird's eye view, all the way active mapping, all the way down to the school level, that Washtenaw County Dispatch and all law enforcement have access to all the maps for all of our schools. And then we have recently, a couple years back, put Narcan in our schools. And it's a hard one. Unfortunately, we have had to use it a number of times, but it has saved lives. And so it's critical that we have that in our schools, especially our secondary schools. I'm going to talk quickly, you can go to the next slide, on our threat and suicide assessments. Every public school district in Washtenaw County, we evaluated and selected the Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guideline. We call it CSTAG. When a district staff member or when we're informed that a student is made a threat to themselves or others, immediate action is taken and we investigate the origins of the threat. CSTAG is conducted, which will determine if the threat is transient or substantive, and the threat assessment helps to determine the next steps. Law enforcement is notified if through the assessment process we see that this is a substantive threat. A student who's identified as making the threat is also placed on emergency removal during the investigation. And parents and guardians will be involved and will be contacted if the threat involves any type of weapon. Police will follow up, as well as CPS may also be called depending on the situation. The whole idea about a CSTAG is to get to students early so that we can get the supports they need. And that is really the philosophy. We have all of this on our website. We are very upfront about our CSTAG assessments, and parents can read about it more, so parents are aware of our process and our protocols. Our Columbia, our support staff also utilizes Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scales, and this is a suicide risk screening that is done with students when we are notified or when we hear that someone is at risk for suicide. The questions are asked by administrators and support staff. Some of them are listed there. But we have a really powerful partnership with the University of Michigan Psychiatric Emergency Services and Community Mental Health. When we have a student or even a staff member that is in need of supports, and the parent approves, we will notify the director of PES at U of M that this student is on their way or this staff member is on their way for services. I actually text Dr. Hong, give them just a little bit of information, and then their staff is prepared when that student comes. And then we also have a community mental health crisis response team that serves Ann Arbor. And when we have students or even staff in need, we can call them, and within usually under an hour, usually under 30 minutes, this team comes to our schools to help support mental health crises. So those are really important partnerships that we have. I'm going to talk a little bit about our tip line and the securely filtering and monitoring. We use a couple of different tip lines. They are anonymous and confidential. Securely is one that we institute in this district, and we have posters, information all over our schools about this anonymous and secure tip line. And then we also promote the Michigan State Police's OK to Say. So we will receive information from both of these tip lines for a variety of situations. And then we also use Securely as go to the next slide, Securely as our monitoring system for all student emails and searches that they use on our devices. And this is to comply with the federal SIPA, the Children's Internet Protection Act. And parents and guardians can also enroll to monitor their student searches. We have this information with a link for them to do that. We monitor searches and emails 24/7, 365 days a year. So even during our breaks, myself and another staff member monitor and get the notices from Securely. There are 4 different levels of response from Securely, and the highest level, they will actually call us. I get calls sometimes in the middle of the night, and then we have to make contact. We usually then notify police to help us because it's such an emergent situation. But we receive Securely emails all the time. And we expect our staff, and they are excellent at this in the schools, to review the Securely notice, and then they immediately go get the student and have a conversation. I will say many of these may have to do with something taking place in the classroom, but it's really good that we have this in place just to double check on all of that. We work really closely with the ISD. They will also send out Handle with Cares that we get whenever law enforcement has any interaction in a home that has one of our students. We don't know what that is generally, but we just know that there's been some kind of law enforcement interaction with that student, and it allows our schools to keep an eye on the student. They might not know exactly the situation, but they can keep an eye on that student. We talked about our June 25th, it was actually, event that we held, full-scale event, and with that event, we practiced our Family Assistance Center. I have a very powerful team of volunteers, again, from the district that have been trained in the I Love You Guys Foundation with Raptor, and we have a well-tuned family reunification assistance process that we use. And this could be used for a variety of situations. If we have to evacuate the school for a power outage, electrical hazard, gas leak, or an emergency event, we have a 2-step evacuation and family assistance reunification process. And we have we have a video actually on our website that explains it to families, as well as talking to them about how they will be notified and how they will be notified of where they need to go, which is not the evacuation site, it is the reunification site. And then we work with local law enforcement and we staff that site to ensure that we are getting students back with their parents or guardians. And so we have a whole process. We were fortunate to have some grant dollars. We actually have a trailer that our physical properties team grabs when there's emergency, and they bring it to the location, to the reunification site. We set it up. We start with assistance with parking, with checking in families, with reunifying. Our students are bused or walk to these centers, and we have staff there to meet them and to work with them. So it's a whole process. And we tested this. We've done a number of trainings, but we actually used it as part of our June full-scale event as well. Also, we do Safe Route to School programs. This is, we're always trying to get our kids to walk and bike to school, and so it's so important that we have Safe Route to School programs in the majority of our schools. We work closely with law enforcement and actually with City of Ann Arbor traffic engineers. We work with a team from the schools. It's usually parent initiated, and we will do walks around those schools to see how are the sidewalks, how are the street crossings, how many streets do students need to cross to get safely to school? What are the obstacles? And we've done a lot of improvements working with the city for our students to be able to more easily walk and bike to school. Generally, many of our schools have walk and bike to school days that are usually in the fall and the spring, even though we encourage them to do them in the winter too. But it's really a great program, and we have a lot of parents that really are champions of this, and we work also with some local groups that donate bikes if students need bikes and helmets. So it's a big wide partnership that we are able to do with many of our schools. Plus, many of our schools apply for grants through the state of Michigan, and we can get funding to help improve and communicate to families about safe walking and biking to school. So our partnership with local law enforcement is so, so important. I've touched on a lot of things here, but I work really closely with the emergency manager with the City of Ann Arbor. We plan tabletops, full-scale exercise like we did last June. We look at mass casualty event response. We coordinate with police on many, many student and staff issues. I'm really thrilled. This is the second year that we are doing the We Care program for our middle schoolers. This is something that Chief Anderson with the Ann Arbor Police Department initiated. We have middle schoolers that we take down to the station over the month of, they go 4 times during the month of April, and they talk about leadership, and they learn about a lot of different things. They meet with police, they meet with fire. It's really, last year it was our first year, and it was a big hit, so we're expecting even more kids this year. We work closely with them on coordination of U of M football and basketball because of the parking that we do in Pioneer. They are very close with us and work with us on school security. Again, I mentioned that they work with us on the Safe Route to School program. They are really important members of the Rec and Ed Safety Town. It's a big hit when the police come and the fire truck comes to Safety Town every summer. And then so many other issues that we work with them on really seriously on a daily basis. And we're really grateful for that partnership. It goes beyond just Ann Arbor Police and Ann Arbor Fire. Pittsfield Township, like I had mentioned, services Carpenter Elementary. We deal with the Sheriff's Department, and also it's really important, U of M Public Safety. They are really important members of the team, mainly because of where they're located in terms of especially Pioneer. So they were also involved in our June event because we know that likely they're some of the first responders to many of our campuses. Hey, shoo, that was a lot. So I'm here to answer any questions. We are planning to hold a community meeting where we share this information as well so that we can better inform our families of what we're doing.
Thank you very much, Ms. Margolis. Looks like I see a question by Trustee Mohammed, and then I think I saw Schmidt and then Wilkins.
So I know that, I don't know what the status is of the AAPS City Transportation Safety Committee. I don't know if they're meeting. I know that there is a committee that is out there. Or what is the status? Or is the Safe Routes to School program a replacement of that committee?
That's a separate program. Yeah, I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just, you can go, but I was just going to say they're separate. And the Transportation Safety Committee has not convened in several years at this point.
Okay, because I know one of the, I speak to some of the council members, and I believe one is on the committee, but I don't know if they've met or what the status of it has been.
No, that was a district-led initiative where we invited the city, but we work so closely with the city, the staff to staff, that it really, and even beyond that, even with Washtenaw County and the Road Commission, so it really sort of became a committee that, well, it didn't happen during COVID, obviously, but because of our close partnership, we would sometimes come to those committee meetings and we had already had all of our discussions and we're working on plans and improvements. So we have not had that recently.
Okay. As our partnerships have strengthened, the necessity for that committee has lessened.
Okay. And then I know from the feedback that I've heard from parents from a recent like a safety town hall, was possibly, having a school safety ad hoc committee or anything. Has that been discussed or thought about?
Yeah, so we have an ad hoc committee actually of folks that we work with regularly through many of the agencies that Ms. Margolis mentioned that we partner with. And so at that particular town hall, I spoke to that a little bit, that we already have a working group, right? And so now, are there other folks that we can layer into that? Sure. But we do have a group of folks that Ms. Margolis and I are usually together with them, really just kind of refining our practices, making sure we're in communication, making sure that we're in alignment with each other. So we already have an existing structure for that. Yeah.
Trustee Schmidt.
So I assume that there are cooperative agreements with all the local law enforcement, yes? So when things happen, because since we cover 7 municipalities?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Right, so when things go down, depending on which school, different neighboring ones help each other as well as, I mean, what's the
Yeah,
situation there?
the only school that's outside the city limits is Carpenter. So, but we do have students that we have from, outside the city, obviously. And most of those, except for Pittsfield Township, but also there's crossover with Washtenaw County Sheriffs. So I'm going to say the west side, outside the city limits, where we go, we will be dealing mainly with the Sheriff's Department in those areas. But also the Ann Arbor Police work really closely with us. And so if there's a situation in a home area that's happened, a student's home, and it's not in the city, it's outside, really our call begins either with my contact at the Sheriff's Department and with the city, and they work collaboratively on that. So in terms of, we have multi-agencies that report to any kind of situation. An example of that, and it's also because in the city of Ann Arbor, we're sort of the county seat. And so if you recall that incident a number of years ago on U of M's campus where it ended up being a balloon that popped, within like 2 minutes, they had 60 different reporting agencies members on the campus because even people that were maybe in the court that day but were notified. And so it's about really controlling and having the operations control over that. But we are fortunate because we have so many different law enforcement agencies that we train with that can respond to our schools.
Thank you.
Trustee Wilkins?
First of all, I just want to say, wow, this is a lot of stuff, and it's super impressive, and I'm excited for the upcoming meeting when it'll be presented to the public so they can hear about all this stuff and know that it's taken so seriously, and there's so many different aspects to this. I have a question about what's a tabletop?
Oh, sure. Sorry. So I talked about the June event, which was what we call like a full-scale exercise, where we actually practiced, and it was all staged and it was all scripted out. Like it takes about a year, and we actually have people come in and act as the shooter, and we have injuries and we respond. A tabletop is just that. You're sitting down at a table, and you may have like cards that initiate different types of events. And instead of having this whole full-scale action, you're sitting at a table and you're responding to an event through a discussion. And you might get like an inject, XYZ has now happened, how are you going to respond? And so it's an easier doable type of thing to do instead of the big full-scale event. And we can plan more of those within a year than a big full-scale event. To practice different things. It doesn't have to be intruders. It could be a fire. It could be a gas leak. All different types of emergencies that we need to address within our schools.
The trauma bags, do they have EpiPens?
We have EpiPens in our clinics and in our nurses, but they aren't loaded in the trauma bags. But they are in our clinics, and because we have to keep them in a secure area. But yes.
And the critical incident stress management, you said there are about 12 people that are trained in that?
One is my partner in that. We have about 12? Yeah, we have about 12 staff members.
That doesn't sound like a lot to me. Is that enough?
Yeah, generally it takes about 2 of us. You always do it in pairs. And when we have operated these, there's been either 2 or 4 of us gone to break it up. But that we also have the resources of Washtenaw County Community Mental Health who actually train us. And so if we need additional folks beyond our team, which we haven't needed, they can come and support us as well.
All right. Is there anything else?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that great report with a lot of information. Hopefully the community learned some things. I know I did, so thank you. All right, trustees, I think we've been going for a while here. If we can take a 5-minute break and allow people to get a chance to stretch their legs. All right. Recall this meeting to order at 9:23. I believe we were down at number 8.4, capital programs update, and I'll turn it over to our capital team. Superintendent Burks.
All right, thank you, President Feaster. We'll have Mr. Bing get us started. A couple of months ago, we saw the capital program annual report, and now we are back with an update, which we plan to do yearly, so that any adjustments that are necessary based on changing in materials and labor costs and inflationary costs impacting our work can be discussed with the Board of Ed and the community, and any necessary adjustments made, because obviously it's the responsible thing to do. So we want to talk about some of those things this evening, but also kind of more broadly our capital project work. And so I'll turn it over to Mr. Bing to get us started.
All right. Thank you, Superintendent Parks. Thank you, trustees and Ann Arbor community, for allowing the capital program team to be with you here tonight for this timely update. So as Superintendent Parks just mentioned, we're here to provide you all with some important information on how today's reality or our current conditions will require realignment and recalibration of planning and implementation of our AAPS capital investments. And so as we're all very aware, the here and now of today is quite different from the pre-COVID years that led up to the 2019 bond. COVID in the years that followed created some pretty seismic shifts, big shifts in money, politics, behaviors. Many conditions have changed, and we'll review some of those this evening. And you can advance to the background slide. We'll linger here for just a sec. As it relates to the AAPS capital program, a fundamental change has been the ongoing inflationary impacts and resulting cost of construction for the AAPS. Shortages in a labor workforce, shortages in supply chain, tariffs, the repeal of incentives, all have significantly increased the cost to construct for the AAPS. So these significant cost increases impact our overall scope and the speed with which the AAPS can implement capital improvements. So adjustments to our current Phase 2 capital plan will be needed. But because the Phase 2 plan was always dependent on 2 sinking fund renewals, the availability of funds becomes an extremely important factor in all considerations moving forward. As Superintendent Parks has shared, we can't spend dollars that we don't have, and the sinking fund represents not only a large percentage of our campaign commitments, but also crucial repair dollars that could only be replaced by general fund expenditures should the sinking fund not be renewed. So if you can advance our slide here. So we're here tonight to discuss an approach to responsive planning. Whereas since the beginning of the 2019 bond, we've maintained consistent reviews and evaluations of the capital program roadmap, and will continue to do so, using new data as it becomes available, promoting transparency in the decision-making process, and fostering a responsible framework for the stewardship of voter-approved resources. And you can advance one more slide for me. We'll also review the importance of our combined utilization of the sinking fund and bond fund, which together represent the funding needed to support an AAPS capital plan. These are 2 separate and distinct funds, in which the sinking fund represents an annual pay-as-you-go millage used to finance the repair and construction of AAPS school facilities, and the bond fund, which supports strategic and specific capital improvement goals and objectives outlined in the 2019 bond initiative. Each funding source comes with different rules and restrictions, but the capital plan has always included 2 sinking fund renewals in both 2026 and 2036, in addition to the 2019 bond. So Stephanie Corona and our Gilbane owners representative team are here to help us set the table for some timely conversations on how we as a district adjust and align our capital plan with today's reality, making sure that we can continue to do great work moving forward for our students and staff within the reality of today's economy, and particularly Ann Arbor's construction market. So I'll turn it over to you, Stephanie.
Thank you. And thank you for having us here today. So on the next, we're going to talk about the inflationary impacts. I think we all feel it every day, but I think it's important to show it on paper. So our material and labor costs increased by 44% since 2019. Back in 2020, when we had COVID, we started seeing the spikes, and also in 2022, a significant spike. It has continued to rise at a more moderate pace than between 21 and 22. At the bottom, you're going to see the bond. Bond revenue does not increase with inflation. It stays stagnant. So what we're seeing here is bond is stagnant and doesn't increase with inflation, but inflation impacts our material and labor costs. If you can go to the next slide. So back in 2019, when they put the bond together, did anybody think about inflation? Well, they did. They actually thought an average of 2.1% increase in inflation per year, and that's the yellow line. But what you can see there is that labor and material costs were 32% higher than what was originally projected. You can go to the next slide. So what does that mean? Well, inflation has risen significantly than what was originally anticipated. Now, we could see in 23, 24, and 25, it's leveled out to more of a moderate inflation rate, but it's still 44% higher than 2019. We have a 32% gap between what was projected for inflation and what actually happened, and then we have a bond revenue that does not increase with inflation. And so what that does is it creates challenges for the funds that we have available versus the material and labor costs. You can go to the next slide. So back in 2019, the graphic on the left is what was actually provided in the bond campaign. It talked about a 20-year facility condition assessment investment. And what's really happened is we've had over a 44% increase, 32% gap. So what is that in actual cost today? We're now at $1 billion versus $823 million. And everything increased with inflation. Next slide. So what was the impact to the sinking fund? Well, the first image on the left is the original 2019 bond campaign funding source. And at that time, it was assumed $441 million was going to be out of sinking fund and $1 billion for the bond. Fast forward to November of 2022. The great thing about the sinking fund is that it is dependent upon inflation. So the sinking fund revenue went up because inflation went up, but the bond did not. It's still flat. So we start having a little bit of a gap, but we adjusted back in 2022 for the inflationary costs back then. Next slide. Fast forward to 2025. Now, sinking fund is almost half of the revenue for the capital campaign. Again, bond is still at $1 billion, not moving, but with 2 sinking fund renewals, we're projecting $816 million. So almost double what was originally projected back in 2019. But the last image is on the right-hand side, and that is what would occur if we did not have a sinking fund renewal. And in this case, we would be looking at a potential gap of $582 million. Yes, we still spent sinking fund, and we still had sinking fund revenue coming in through 2025 and through 26, but without a sinking fund renewal, that is our current gap that we're looking at having for the capital program. Next slide. So why is this so important? Well, you know, we always look at this was back in the bond campaign, even back then, but this is really a three-legged, stool. When costs increase, which is inflation, time and scope are impacted, so we may have to make the adjustment. When revenue decreases, you know, hypothetically, if there is no sinking fund renewal, then time and scope are also impacted. But they will always remain equal. We just have to adjust for it. Next. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is cash flow. Oh, and I'd like to go back a couple slides because I think, keep going back. One more, keep going, one more. Right there. So one of the things to say is, hey, you know, what happened in 2022? Why was it so, why didn't we see it coming? Well, I'm gonna say this. Back in 2022, the U.S. inflation rate that was projected by the Department of Labor actually was showing that our cost of goods and services was going down. But construction continued to go up. So we were looking at the trends of costs and goods and services from the Department of Labor and from the U.S. inflation projections, but that's not the reality here in Michigan. So, all right, sorry, go back. So cash flow. Inflation impacts cash flow. And one of the things I wanted to point out with the sinking fund is that the current 2017 sinking fund levy is 2.5 mils. And the assumption back in 2019 is that when the bond was approved, was that the renewal in 2026 was going to be for 2.5 mils. So we were just looking for a renewal, not for an increase in mils. And I think that's important because we're not looking to ask for more money. We're just looking for a renewal. On the next slide, back in 2022, when we came to the board on the Phase 2 plan, we had already made adjustments with the Phase 2 plan to adjust for the sinking fund and inflation back then, based on the information that we had. But moving forward, next slide. We now see material and labor costs are exceeding our projections, that the bond revenue is stagnant, does not increase with inflation, that our combined bond and sinking revenue is not keeping pace with the material and labor costs. The rising costs impact our cash flow and the current project implementation plan. And when I say it's impacting cash flow, because it costs more for goods and services or for construction, that means we're spending money faster than what we're originally projecting because it's costing more. So we need to slow down the pace a little bit to allow our sinking fund revenue to catch up, to make sure that we're not spending faster than we're bringing it in. Yes, we have $1 billion, without a doubt. But we also have to make sure part of the plan was also a sinking fund revenue and renewal. So we want to make sure that we have the renewal in place and that we are spending accordingly at a proper pace. So we'll need to slow down a little bit. We don't want to go into a negative cash flow. Next. So what does that mean? So adjustments to the Phase 2 plan would mean no new construction starts in 2026. We have 5 major projects happening right now. And one of the things we need to keep in consideration is we need to make sure that we do have the sinking fund renewal before we move forward on any future projects. We also need to reevaluate some factors, not just the timeline, scope, and cost, but we also need to incorporate new data that we didn't have 2 or 3 years ago. We need to reduce our reliance on staging schools, focus on future-ready schools, and continue our commitment to sustainability. Next page. If we didn't have a sinking fund renewal in 2026 and 2036, then we would only be focusing on our facility condition assessment needs. That means no future new schools, no future major modernizations or renovations, and the bond would need to be used for critical needs where allowed. And I'm going to expand on where allowed means, because I think Jason pointed that out a little bit earlier. We do have restrictions on what we can spend bond money on. Next slide. So our general fund impacts, if a sinking fund were not to occur. So since 2017, the sinking fund has been instrumental in funding some of our most critical repairs and capital improvements, such as roofing, plumbing, heating, cooling, paving, and even playground repairs. This represents annually 6.9%. Oh, sorry, $6 to $9 million. I have a glare on my screen. Just to remind you, general fund monies are meant for salaries, teaching and learning. Sinking fund monies are meant for repairs and preventative maintenance and capital improvements. Bond funds are meant for capital improvements, buses, musical instruments, and athletic improvements. But the key thing is that sinking fund money is really for preventative maintenance spending. No sinking money means that we have to defer that maintenance to the buildings, and deferred maintenance means that we are now crisis spending from the general fund. We cannot spend bond money on repairs and preventative maintenance. We're not allowed to do that. So if we can't spend it from the bond, then it's going to have to come from the general fund. Any questions on that one? Next. So what are our next steps at this point? Well, we need to review factors impacting the capital program. First of all, we need a renewal of the sinking fund. I just want to say that. That does need to occur. But we need to also review enrollment, district programming. CTE program was passed. What do we need to support that new millage that occurred? Stakeholder engagement process, we're going to re-review that. We had land acquisition challenges. We were looking to acquire land that was part of the original Phase 2 plan. There's no land to acquire in Ann Arbor at this point. Environmental considerations are obviously our inflationary impacts. And so when we need to review really our project timeline, our scopes, and our costs. You know, it's a great opportunity for us to retake a look at it, because we've had so many things that have changed since our initial Phase 2 plan in 2022 that I think will impact how we look at moving forward. And to be honest with you, we're going to look at it again probably in another 2 to 3 years, because we're going to have changes that occur again. So next slide. So some of the adjustments to the Phase 2 plan, even with both sinking fund renewals, could include some of the following items. One is omitting the new middle school pool facility. That was in the original Phase 2 plan. We do not have a middle school pool program anymore. So that would be one of the items that we would look at omitting. Explore options for the use of Old Logan. I think the original plan had called for it to be a preschool school, but we are now incorporating preschool into our elementary schools. So that's a change that has happened. Explore or reevaluate our new construction and modernizations at Abbott, Carpenter, King, Lakewood, Lawton, Pathways, Pittsfield, and Wines. And really, we need to review all of our projects and just make sure and that they're realigning with the new data that we have. Next. So our next steps is really work with finance on renewal of a sinking fund. In 2026, work with the district leadership team on options and recommendations, follow up with the bond committee and board of the whole with frequent updates and feedback, and develop a communications plan for potential adjustments and or slowdowns to the school communities. And I think that is it. A lot of information. We're ready for some questions.
Trustee Schmidt?
Well, just for the, anybody that's watching this meeting, we as a school district cannot campaign to the community to ask you to vote for a renewal. We can share information, we can do an educational campaign, but this is really led by a group of citizens to try to make sure everybody understands the import of if it doesn't pass, if it does pass. I think it's interesting that I would guess that many people in 2019 that voted for the big $1 billion bond probably didn't look at the fine print and say, oh, this is also every 10 years. Part of that is the sinking fund. And the word sinking fund is already confusing. Like, what is it? What do those words even mean, right? But I think that the public really needs to understand that, we haven't seen the kind of increases every year on per student funding. And the way districts are keeping their head above water is to pass things like enhancement millages like the CTE and the special ed and the sinking fund and all that so that we don't have to take money out of our general fund. And I think you demonstrated it beautifully here to say, if that isn't renewed, those things still have to happen, those maintenance costs and all those things to just keep our buildings up, and it will have a horrible impact on our general fund. So I'm glad you're sharing this, and we'll have to continue to educate the community about the importance of renewal.
Trustee Muhammad?
So I wanted to ask, and thank you for sharing this, even though it's hard to see, but it's understandable with how the environment is. But what do you think the timeline is as far as any adjustments, if we do have to make any adjustments in our phase 2 plans?
This is not a right-away thing. I think we're looking for a year. That's why we're looking to slow down. We'd like to see how we're doing on the sinking fund renewal. I think that will tell us a lot in the direction. We're still going to be working in the back. I mean, we still have a lot of projects that are going. Our focus will be heavily on our current projects we're working on facility condition improvements that need to occur, whether the sinking fund passes or not. They still need to be taken care of. And then we'll be looking and planning. So, talking to leadership.
Just to follow up, so projects that are pending, those are on hold until we have a plan. The current projects that have hit the ground are happening.
Oh, those are happening. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just wanted to be sure.
We're going to hold off on any new starts of major projects.
Thank you for that question, because that's important to know for the community that our current projects are continuing on.
Trustee Wilkerson?
I have a couple questions and comments. I guess one, now that we're into the construction for some of these current major projects, do we have a good sense of where we are going to land budget to actual on those with the increased labor costs?
Yes, because with those, we actually had adjusted along the way. And because we adjusted along the way, that's how we were able to project out for our future projects that we were looking to do. And that's when we said, okay, we ran a cash flow and said, what happens if the sinking fund doesn't pass? Where does that put us? And that's when we said we can't start any new projects in 2026 because we would need to refocus and reshift where the priorities are at that point if it didn't occur. Now, if it does occur, it just means that we need to pick back up. Would it still be in the same order? I think that's what we have to figure out in the next year. There's still priorities that need to happen, but we have some land acquisition challenges that we were trying to work through on a couple of our sites that still haven't been worked out, that we're hoping to have rectified. And so we would have to reconsider what are our other options on those sites. But I think this goes back to we need to look at the enrollment we need to look at. There's a lot of factors now we have to look at that I think might, for some of the schools, make a change of what we do.
So, I guess my question is, if the sinking fund were to pass in August, then in theory, you all could pick back up in October.
I think it would be sometime, we would pick back up in our planning, and I think at sometime before the first of the year, we would need to come back and report on any changes or recommendations to those changes.
I guess my follow-up would be, we would want to have the recommendation on changes as quickly as possible as things continue to go up with inflation, because the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost.
Yes, sir.
That's how I'm understanding what you're telling me.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So that's why in this time period, we really do need to reevaluate, look at the new data, and we'll be doing that before the sinking fund renewal and even after the sinking fund renewal.
And it's, I'm sorry. I was also going to say, and I think it's also a reason why it's important that we do this annually, so that we can make those adjustments at a quicker pace.
But adjust with the market,
With
so
the
to speak.
Absolutely.
It seems like.
Sorry, Jason, go ahead.
I was just going to maybe clarify or say that in the time from now until sinking fund renewal, what we'd want to do is develop sort of plan A. We have a sinking fund.
Right.
Plan B, no sinking fund, and we'll be working with Superintendent Parks on the development of those plans, options and recommendations.
Okay.
To bring to the board.
Trustee Wilkerson?
Yeah, and I just want to hit on that point again. Trustee Schmidt brought it up, but when we think about the sinking fund, it isn't just, hey, can we continue the projects that we planned, right? It's really the impact to the general fund, the impact that it means to our teachers and salaries and all the other things that we pay out of that general fund. In addition to...
What percentage is that?
It's a significant amount. In addition to the programming that we want to bring as part of the capital improvements project. So, it's a mix of both positions, but I think that general fund impact is much more detrimental to our district and our programming rather than, the nice new buildings we want to have for the future.
Trustee Schmidt?
Getting into the weeds a little bit, when you make this statement about there is no land to buy, can you just talk about that a little bit? Because I think I've learned, being on the board here a couple years, about it's not just any land you buy for schools.
That's correct. I think we gave a report on this a couple years ago, but the land that a school needs to be a minimal of a certain size, because it's not just the school building, it's circulation, it's playground, there's a whole bunch of things involved. But in addition to that, the land has to also be land that is acceptable for a school. There was properties that were available that we did look at and review, but they were contaminated. We're not going to put our schools on contaminated sites. They were great for an industrial building or for commercial, but they're not good for a school. So, maybe they're right next to an industrial site. We were trying to keep our schools in neighborhoods, not in an industrial park. But again, it's really the size land that's needed, and to make sure that the land was clean.
Is that you're looking in the school district as a whole, or the city of Ann Arbor?
The school district as a whole.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
School district as a whole. And then, we were hoping that we could potentially have some partnerships with the city of Ann Arbor and maybe some parks to do some, growth into some of the parks, and in turn doing some park improvement while we're there. But that has not really gone anywhere. And so plans that we were hoping to have just have stalled at this point, so.
Right.
And you were saying something about the Gelman plume also is migrating, and that's having impacts on things.
Yeah, the prohibition zone continues to migrate, and that's something that we're watching really closely, because when we want to invest in certain campuses and consider stuff like underground infrastructure, whether that's stormwater or geothermal or other underground infrastructure, that all comes into play. So, yeah, I mean, the other piece of sort of land considerations is just, where is the need for the district, and there might be something available that is not in the right location, or it doesn't suit our overall needs. And so I think we're past some of those conversations, but yeah.
So there might be land, but it's not in near neighborhoods where the population is what you're saying. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
That makes more sense to me. Okay.
And there was land we looked at, but there was no infrastructure getting there. So there was no water or sewer. And so we really didn't have the ability, and the land didn't perk.
Okay.
So we couldn't even put a septic field in.
Okay. Did you have something, Trustee Schmidt?
No, I did, and I just forgot what I was. Oh, I've got it. Enrollment. We were looking at enrollment. We'd had some conversations about this before it was presented this evening, about, like, for instance, the new neighborhood in the northeast corner was Toll Brothers or whatever it is. And we thought, a neighborhood like that would bring in tons of kids. But what are we seeing in enrollment trends? That's part one. And number two, who do we use to really estimate where enrollment trends are going?
I appreciate that question. We've worked with a couple local firms to do development studies over the last several years. I think we started in 2018, another in 21 and 23. And we took a moment, actually in partnership with the city, talking through where certain developments were at, and then sort of overlaid our school data on top of the predicted development, like the population that we would see as a result of those developments. And we were 40% or less students, actual students coming out of the developments that we were planning for. So there's a challenge with just the Ann Arbor market, who's buying homes, and when people are starting families, and all of the many factors there that don't straight relate to the development sort of metrics that we were utilizing, that our professionals were utilizing.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Yeah, just to clarify a couple of those numbers. So our general fund impact, so if it's 6 to 9 million, that's 2 to 3% right budget. And I'll remind trustees that 96% of our expenses last year were spent on services and salaries for teachers and staff. So there, if you start thinking about where this money is going to come from, sure, we might not spend $6 to $9 million if we have to delay some of those repairs, but it comes directly from trying to provide our teachers and community. I want to clarify that. And then the other thing I just want to really highlight is the communication piece. I know you put that in there for next steps, but I think that's imperative for our communities, and anything that we slow down, I think there's a lot of expectations from our communities of what we've, kind of laid out as a plan. So I think early and often communication is also very important.
I have one more question. On your pie chart, the yellow portion says earnings and incentives. What exactly is that?
I mean, it won't give you a detail. I mean,
It's the donut.
yeah.
The donut.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's, yeah.
I think this is probably best answered by Mr. Zaski and the finance team, but really that's a result of either incentives through IRA, direct pay, elective funding, or it's interest accrued on funds as we're getting ready to spend bond funds and holdings that really aren't we're not so involved in, but I think Mr. Zaski could probably pinpoint that number for you.
So for clarity, so it's not bond dollars necessarily. It's not sinking fund dollars necessarily. And it's not general fund dollars, but it's some other money that arrives that helps us pay for our projects, is what I'm understanding.
We definitely need to get you the clarification.
Okay, no problem. I can wait for that. No
but,
worries.
But it is monies that have to be spent through the bond and capital funding. If you earn money on bond dollars, it has to be spent in that way.
All right. Okay. All right. That makes a little more sense to me. Thank you.
Like a financial instrument, like interest, kind of, right?
Yeah, but then I thought we couldn't take interest on the bond money, so I get confused.
There's a different way.
There is earnings on bond monies naturally that occur.
Okay.
So and that does happen, and that's happened every year. It's just between that and any incentive monies that came in that were directly as a result of the bond, that has to go back towards the bond.
Okay.
It can't go back into general fund.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think the clarification you might be thinking about is, I think we talked about if you hold it for too long, then those dollars start to get penalties on them.
Right.
Well, this is money that's just not being held too long, but it still does accrue interest before we get to that too long date.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
They can't go into the general fund.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. I think I get it. May have more questions for you next time, but all right. Anything else, trustees? All right. Thank you all for the presentation. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I believe that brings us down to second briefing. This is the bond team still.
No, the dishwasher replacement was Ms. Margolis.
Margolis, oh.
But there are no changes.
Okay.
Once we get to that item.
All right, no changes. Thank you, Ms. Margolis. What about for 9.2 AN 2251 Winter 2026 device refurbish instructional staff?
That was Dr. Kellstrom who presented that item last time, and there are no changes.
Okay. Any questions, trustees, on those items?
I do have one question on the device refresh.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure that includes enough devices for us to have some on standby as well.
Yes, I believe it does. I'll clarify though.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I believe that brings us down. I'm sorry, Trustee Wilkins.
Just a clarification, it does say in here, but I want to ask it out loud. The MacBook devices is bond dollars?
Correct. Tech bond. Mm-hmm.
Not general fund.
And the
Yeah,
dishwasher.
and the dishwasher. Yep.
Not general fund.
Sometimes the tech stuff is less known.
And the answer to your question, Trustee Wilkerson, is yes. It does include the purchase of additional devices.
Perfect. Thank you.
Other questions? And that brings us down to the consent agenda. We are now at the consent agenda. Ms. Ozinski, would you please read the consent agenda?
Certainly. AN-2250, commercial dishwasher replacement at Foresight.
I'm sorry, Ms. Ozinski.
I'm sorry?
Let me stop you for a second. I think I'm supposed to ask, would anyone like anything removed? From
I'll
the...
read it first and then you ask.
Okay, all right.
Yep. And you did it right.
All right. Just making sure.
AN-2251, winter 2026 device refresh for instructional staff. Approve the minutes of the February 4th, 2026 regular meeting and the February 5th, 2026 board retreat. Approve a closed session on March 11th, 2026 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of attorney-client privilege and negotiations. And approve a donation from Haven Dawn Simsar, a 2012 Ford Focus, to the Pioneer Auto Shop. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Ozinski. Now, would anyone like anything removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Wilkerson, supported by Trustee Schmidt, I believe. Any discussion? None.
I'm
Ms. Ozinski?
sorry. I'm at the wrong.
Oh,
I'm at the wrong
well, take your
screen.
time.
I'm so sorry.
No worries.
It took me out.
No worries.
My apologies.
We'll talk more about the
Here we go.
dishwashers.
Here we go. Now about that dishwasher.
Really?
Let's just talk about that real quick. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry. Who moved that?
Moved by Trustee Wilkerson, supported by Trustee Schmidt.
Thank you so much. And we're ready for a roll call.
Yes, please.
President Feaster.
Yes.
Trustee Mohammed.
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt.
Yes.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Yes.
And Trustee Wilkins.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I believe that brings us down to board action. We have the draft of policy 1410. Do I just go through them all or do it one at a time?
Yes. I think, would trustees like them up on the screen? I guess I didn't ask that.
Good.
Yeah, that would be
Yep.
Make a quick comment. Okay. Well, we're pulling that up. I think it's just important to note these are a result of the retreats that we've hosted. We've worked through these in quite a lot of detail with a facilitator to get to where these are today. I know Trustee Basket and Trustee Wilkes aren't able to join us, but they both supported kind of these changes. So Trustee Basket is part of the governance committee that put these forward. I'll just mention that as well.
So this is the draft marked up version of the current policy. So everything in green and underline is the new stuff. And if Andrew scrolls down a little bit, you'll see what's been, basically everything's been deleted and replaced by the new committees that were discussed in retreat. Mm-hmm.
For the, if I may?
Yes.
For the public's interest, a goal of this retreat that we had for a couple days and had a facilitator and everything was to become more efficient at running as a board and also in working with our superintendent to make fewer meetings that are just run more tightly and still getting the work done and the oversight that we needed to do. Because I think when I wasn't on the board when the last framework was passed, but whenever you try a framework, you use it for a period of time and say, maybe we need to tweak this, change this, and so this is what we came up with. I think it was a very good collaborative experience.
Trustee Wilkins?
I think it's important to point out that it's a restructuring and kind of a merging of committees, and none of the former committees are being eliminated. They're all still represented here. Some of them in, I think, better ways than how they were before. I think that's important to point out too.
Trustee Mohammed?
And it seems like, because we had it looks like 6 standing committees, so we're really combining them into 3. But like Trustee Wilkins said, like, for example, agenda planning, instead of it being in the executive committee, now it's under governance, for example. So the tasks are still in here.
Yeah. Work will still be done. Right?
Anything additional? Want to put up the next one, or you want us to do one at a time?
I do have motions for each one after they've been.
All right, I'll do that then.
But it's up to the trustees, however they would like to do it.
Fine. We'll start with 1410.
But what we do have to do, can I just mention, because again, we're trying to, just move the work forward. This has been discussed several times. There is the motion to suspend policy 1050, which is to allow the trustees to approve this in one briefing. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. And that's
The
included.
motion states it.
Yeah, no, I'll just add that that was discussed in governance committee. Typically, we wouldn't necessarily want to go through first briefing only to approve these, but just because of all trustees were involved in the discussion and what the results were, we felt that was an appropriate response.
Trustee Muhammad?
So is it just 1050 or also 1500? I just want to make, or does it matter?
We're going to have to state what do I say here?
Is 1050 to
1050,
suspend?
you have to suspend policy 1050 to adopt the policy 1410, to adopt the next policy and to, you know what I'm saying? Right.
Okay, but 1500 doesn't matter because it also has the same.
I don't know what 15.
It's board policy. It says proposed addition, amendments, and deletions of board policy
Did
shall
I
be
put the
brought
wrong
before-
policy number in there?
Well, I don't know. Is it both or? I
So-
thought it was 1500.
Show me.
I just want to make sure.
To clarify,
No, 1050 is amendment and suspension of bylaws. 1500 is board policy. In that, okay, you're right. You're right. So we actually have to suspend policy 1500. You are correct. And not 1050. You're correct.
So, okay, so what I'm asking.
Okay, here we go.
Is
1500.
is there a motion to suspend policy 1500 to adopt the revised policy 1410?
So moved.
Moved by trustee
Second.
Wilkins, supported by trustee Wilkerson. Any additional discussion? If we can vote on that one then, Ms. Osinski, please.
Okay, you bet.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I do want to just clarify, Trustee Wilkerson, this was also discussed with our absent board members and they're in support of us doing this without them getting to vote on it.
Yeah, trustee Basket sent an email stating that she was willing to move this forward. And trustee Wilkes reached out to me directly to tell me she was
I
ready
heard
and willing
from
to
both of them too. I just want it to be out in the universe that.
And I think even at the retreat, we were saying we needed to move this because otherwise committee work is kind of stalled right now. So we need to get on the stick.
Trustee Muhammad?
I was going to suggest, I don't know if we can do this. Can we just suspend it until all board action items are taken instead of having to do it every time?
Yeah.
So a friendly amendment? I don't know.
Friendly amendment to suspend policy 1500 for board action for tonight. Is that accepted?
Yes.
Any discussion based off of that? Okay, then Ms. Osinski, please.
Okay. President Feaster?
Yes.
Trustee Muhammad?
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt?
Yes.
Trustee Wilkerson?
Yes.
Trustee Wilkins?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, that brings us down to policy 1100, I believe.
1450.
Sorry, 1450 next. Coming up on the screen. Yes, Trustee Muhammad.
So I just have a quick suggestion. I don't know if this was talked about in governance. It says appointments are typically made during the organizational meeting, but we don't even know who the president, we'll know. Is that too soon, or should we do within a time frame of the organizational meeting when we decide who the president is?
After the organizational meeting.
I think that would be a great change.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
because
say that again?
So when it says appointments are typically made, I think it's like 1, 2.
Yeah, I see right where it is. I see right
So
where it is.
appointments are typically made during the organizational meeting for the term of 1 year. I guess the suggestion is saying appointments, whatever, we can just
Will
say
be
the
made
appointment
at the meeting following
the organizational
organizational
meeting.
meeting.
Because honestly, I don't even think this ever happened that we made.
Right.
We usually,
We always put it off. We always.
because we don't even know
nobody
who the
knows what-
About who's
president
going to be
is.
what? Yeah.
or maybe even between the organizational meeting and the next meeting.
Or by?
How about shortly following the
How about
organizational
appointments will be
meeting?
announced
At the next,
with,
at
you
the
know,
meeting
following the organizational meeting.
meeting,
Just
yes.
leave it at that. It could be the next meeting, it could be maybe the meeting after that.
Yes.
Okay, appointments will be announced
Being followed.
at a meeting, at a
think
public
it was-
meeting following the organizational meeting.
Announced the public meeting following the organizational meeting.
Thank you, Trustee Muhammad. Any other input, comments, thoughts?
Perfect.
I remember we had discussion at our retreat about whether or not board members should attend other committee meetings. I don't remember.
It says board members may not participate in or attend committees to which, oh, maybe we should say committee meetings or committees to which they are not assigned.
I remember there was some discussion. There was discussion and debate. Yeah, so I don't know if that was desired by the board or not.
I can
Go ahead
comment
and
on
I'll
it.
tag.
That was discussed during the governance committee.
Okay.
And it was just to clarify that clear distinction that, to keep us in alignment with Opens Meeting Act, just to make sure we didn't have any participation by board members that weren't part of the committee.
But I do think that the word meeting needs to go there. Board members
agree.
may not participate in or attend committee meetings to which they are not assigned. And,
Yes.
I know Mr. Banasek with MASB, I checked with this a couple years ago.
I remember.
Yeah, and he said, even watching it, it's part of, and sitting and listening, being part of it, is part of a deliberative process, and it does.
But I think
conflict
we.
with OMA.
I don't disagree with you.
No, right.
But I think we got conflicting information at one point. So I think that's why we had not put it in there before. I don't mind it because I don't go to other committee meetings.
You're right, I don't think it was in there before. I mean,
Yeah.
people just assumed it, but it's
Right.
good to put it in there. So do you see,
Yep,
Amy?
I'm not.
Oh, you're not on this?
No,
Okay,
I'm in.
cool.
I'm in another
But
area.
you've made the addition of meetings.
I've made the correction. I said board members may not participate in or attend committee meetings to which they are not assigned.
It's basically
Does that
just.
sound okay?
It's basically just restating the rules of OMA,
Yeah,
essentially. Okay.
keeping with
Right.
the Open Meetings Act.
Right.
Because we have potentially three,
Right.
as written somewhere else, right?
Right. So. So we've suspended policy 1500. Is there a motion to adopt revised policy 1450?
Well, we didn't adopt the other one
Yeah.
Yeah, we voted.
Yes.
yet. Okay, sorry, I'm lost.
So moved.
And second,
Moved by Trustee Wilkerson, supported by Trustee Schmidt. Any additional discussion?
We adopted 1410?
Yeah.
I thought we just suspended
You
everything.
adopted. You suspended 1500 for the meeting for this
Right.
meeting,
Right.
and
then
adopted 1410 all in one motion.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
I made that motion.
okay.
Efficient.
Yes.
Great.
This one's separate.
I was efficient. Oh,
Yes.
good.
So Wilkerson and Schmidt and discussion.
More discussion? All right, Ms. Ozinski, please.
Okay. President Feaster.
Yes.
Trustee Muhammad.
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt.
yes,
Trustee Wilkerson.
Yes.
Trustee Wilkins.
Yes.
Motion carries.
That's to policy 1100. Policy 1100 is on the screen in front of you. There seems to be minimal changes on this slide. Trustee Muhammad, you had a question?
So I thought when we discussed, and maybe we didn't, of course, we're discussing it right now. So we still want the vice president to coordinate the annual superintendent evaluation process, but then the professional development stuff can live under governance. But we still want to, I mean, that's what I thought we came out of the meeting is
I wasn't 100% sure. I couldn't find
to
that.
keep that under the vice president as their main role because
Someone
there's not
has
really much.
Someone has to coordinate it.
We don't want
Yeah.
someone to own it.
Yeah, I think that's what
So we don't want to.
or am I wrong, trustees?
No.
I think that's
Yeah, I think there was a discussion. Can both, does it have to be an or can it be an and? That person is the point person, but it's still under
It's
the
an
umbrella
and.
of
Yeah, yes.
check and balance
It's
kind
both.
of thing?
Yeah.
Because that's like the most important thing we do.
It needs to be done
Pass the
right.
budget.
Yes.
It's also under that committee as a task, but it should be included under the vice president,
as
so
the
we have someone who
coordinator.
owns it.
Sure, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's counted our conversation at the retreat.
No.
Okay, I removed that.
Thank you.
Or kept that item, let's say.
An additional trustee Wilkins?
A question about replacing one title with CFO instead.
That's kind of what we have been doing, but I'm whatever Superintendent Parks thinks is appropriate.
That's just kind of,
What's the question, I guess?
well, we're replacing Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations with Chief Financial Officer when we don't have a Chief Financial Officer right now. So I just wondered what the timing.
Do we have an assistant superintendent of finance?
Yeah,
right
I was
now?
about to say, we don't have either
Right.
role, and so
Right.
we've reframed that role as CFO.
So we're just kind of updating the language
So maybe
here.
it should be a title, like a capital Chief Financial Officer. Maybe it should be a lowercase Chief Financial Officer, meaning
It could be
the
the
top
assistant-
person in
mhm.
that
Oh, that's
In the
office.
department.
How is
Yeah.
that?
Oh,
Perfect.
I like that.
It includes it all. Yeah.
Yeah. I just didn't want it to be confused with a change that we're doing because of this committee restructuring. We're kind of cleaning up at the same time.
It wasn't because of the committees. It just I saw it there and I thought I would
Fair
make
enough.
that change
Yeah.
since we're
Yeah, it's efficient, but I like the lowercase. I think that works well.
That change, I
did that.
Has been
I
added.
will do that.
Okay.
Yep, I've done it. Yep.
Any other questions or thoughts, trustees? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to adopt revised policy 1100?
So moved.
So moved. I'll second it.
Moved by trustee Wilkins, supported by trustee Schmidt. Any additional discussion? None. Ms. Ozinski, please.
President Feaster.
Yes.
Trustee Mohammed.
Yes.
Trustee Schmidt.
Yes.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Yes.
And Trustee Wilkins.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Good. I think that brings it down.
I know. I think that's a big accomplishment.
team.
Go.
You guys did great work. Did great work on that.
Assignments, I didn't know if you were prepared to do that
Yeah,
today.
I can do that now. We find them. So in consultation with Superintendent Parks, we went back and forth a few times and we've come up with these appointments. Try to give everybody their first choice of committee they want to serve on. Obviously, if there's any problems or changes, please let me know after the meeting. For governance, we have the chair being myself, we have trustee Muhammad, and we have trustee Wilkes. On finance, we have the chair being trustee Wilkerson, we have trustee Wilkins, and then we had trustee Schmidt. On equity and performance, we had the chair, that's trustee Schmidt. We had trustee Wilkins, and we had trustee Muhammad. On bond, we changed that back from committee of a whole back to a regular committee, with the chair being trustee Basquette, trustee Wilkerson, and myself. And for the auxiliary positions we have for MASB, we had Trustee Schmidt. For RAC, we had Trustee Muhammad. For student hearings, we had Trustees Feaster and Basquette. For Washtenaw, for WISD, we had Trustee Basquette. And then for the environmental group, we had the same trustees last year, Trustee Wilkins and Trustee Wilkes. So that's what we have as of right now. If someone wants some changes or anybody wants my spot on bond, let me know.
When did the bonds committee get changed from committee of the whole back to a smaller committee?
Talking to the chair, she thought that the committee of the whole wasn't really working. And in talking to other trustees, I've got a consensus that that wasn't something the trustees thought was the best thing for the board. So I decided.
I think we may have to look and see if that was changed in policy.
Okay.
I don't know if it was, but we would have.
I'll check. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with the change. I was
It's not
surprised. I didn't know it was
Not a
coming.
standing
I
committee.
didn't know that was a thing.
Well, yeah, I asked a bunch of people, and pretty much no one was
Because
super.
she didn't want to address, the facilitator didn't want to touch it during our retreat. So
So since I think I made the decision last year to do the public outcry, people wanting there to be more transparency and things of that, we tried to do the committee of the whole. I don't feel like it was very efficient based on what I heard from trustees, and we had a meeting right before a meeting, and it just wasn't ideal.
Right.
So I decided to take it back to what it originally was, just the three people.
Okay.
But if that's a problem, I'm all ears for consideration of making a change if that's not the desire of the board.
And I can also like email separately, but what has happened with like the city schools committee or other committees that were assigned last year? I know they probably haven't met.
Yes, City Schools has not met. It's not an active committee.
Okay.
That's why I didn't appoint. No, I only appointed the things that were on the spreadsheet that was provided to me by Ms. Ozin. If I need to appoint those at a later time, I definitely will do that. All right, if there's no questions on those, then we'll move down to number 12, which is items for agenda planning. Trustees, what items would you like to see added to agenda planning? Trustee Brown.
So one thing, especially when APAC came forward with the report, maybe something to address some of their questions about special ed. And, I know there was some, again, I have to read the report, but from what I heard, like, staffing, are they meeting expectations when it comes to like IEPs, things like that? So maybe something around special ed, just a suggestion, so.
Maybe we should reach out to them and try to find out what's their most pressing things they want us to address. Try to dig into it that way. That okay?
Yep. Yep.
All right. Anything go for agenda planning, trustees? Seeing nothing, now it brings us down to items from the board. The trustees have anything they'd like to share?
Thank you. I have a couple things from the last couple of weeks. So one is I had the opportunity to visit with teachers at A2 STEAM. So I want to thank Mr. Billions for welcoming me and the teachers for inviting me out to engage with them. It was great to see a bunch of familiar faces, teachers that were there to start that school back in 2014 when it came out as a refreshed building, and all the new faces. There's a lot of buzz going on. Teachers, were talking about some of the great things that they're doing in the district, or in the building, I should say. But it was also good to hear some of the challenges and concerns. So I think it was just a really good opportunity to hear directly from teachers, and I would really encourage all board members to look for a way to engage with the community in those smaller group meetings. Also, at A2 STEAM, I had the opportunity to go to the Young Fives Kindergarten Roundup last Thursday, which was a fantastic event. As a board member and kind of a parent that went through that process a long time ago, and now kind of coming back through. It was really cool to see the future of the district in the building and feeling all the buzz and excitement from our new families. So it was really well attended. There was a number of families there, lots of little kids, and it's just exciting thinking about the future of the district. And then the last thing is I just want to congratulate our colleagues at the Detroit Public Schools, the teachers, administrators, and board, but most importantly, the students on their highest graduation rate in history in 2025. I think that was a 5% year-over-year increase. So I just want to call that out as a neighboring district because I think that's a really important step forward.
Trustee Mohammed?
So I did want to mention something about the month of Ramadan, which has already started. And I wanted to acknowledge and support the students, staff, and families in our schools community who are observing this important month. As many know, during Ramadan, which is celebrated in Islam, is where Muslims fast from dawn to sunset. And they focus on prayer, reflection, discipline. So just recognizing, especially the students, families and staff who are fasting may experience changes in energy levels throughout the day. So it's important for us to consider. So just being supportive for those students, especially I understand how hard it is, to take exams and other things throughout the day. So I did want to just at least take the opportunity to celebrate Ramadan this month and wishing a happy Ramadan for those that are observing this month.
Thank you, Trustee Muhammad. All right, Trustee Wilkins.
Just wanted to do a couple of shout outs. I was able to go to Carpenter Elementary for their NAPID community meeting, which they have every Monday morning. And afterwards, I went to the office and said, I wish I could start every week like that. I mean, they have affirmations that the kids say out loud and then everybody repeats after them, and moments of gratitude from the staff and the kids. And then, of course, they had a whole program about a presentation about NAPID and how the founder's grandson attended Carpenter. So, there was that sense of pride from everyone, and it was pretty great. And on the other end of the spectrum, I was able to attend Huron High School's Into the Woods and Pioneers High School's Hamlet. And then Skyline had a collage concert to showcase their arts and music programs. And it's top-notch talent. And it's really a great demonstration of our strong arts programs here at the AAPS. We should be very proud.
Thank you. All right, if there's nothing more, then do I have a motion to adjourn by voice vote?
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Wilkins, supported by Trustee Muhammad. Any discussion? All in favor to adjourn say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. We are adjourned at 10:31 p.m.
Recording.